Chapter 661 Mission of the Empyrean Sect. Yes, even the 6 kings have come, Zhou said, puzzled. Did you get into some kind of trouble, young master? Let's go out and take a look, Su Zimo replied with a smile, getting out of bed and heading straight outside. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Zhang Tianlin waiting nearby with a group of people. Sect Master, is something the matter? Su Zimo asked curiously. Lin Qiu, you've been with our Empyrean sect for a while now, and especially yesterday you helped defend the sect against the Dragon God attack. As the sect master, I saw everything, Zhang Tianlin said with a smile. As a disciple of the sect, it was my duty, Su Zimo replied, smiling and waving it off. I'm glad you see it that way, Zhang Tianlin smiled again. The sect now has a mission of life and death to entrust to you. If you succeed, I will name you the Holy Son of the Empyrean Sect of the World King. Please speak, Sect Master. Su Zimo nodded. To find and merge with the Blood Lizard, Zhang Tianlin said slowly, exchanging glances with the others. Sect Master, this is serious. From what I know, the Blood Lizard is a special kind of lizard that requires a fusion technique, Su Zimo said. But that fusion technique has long been lost. This? Zhang Tianlin pulled out a freshly transcribed book. Su Zimo looked at the book in surprise, then fell into thought and said, Didn't expect our sect to have something like this. Well? Zhang Tianlin asked. Su Zimo didn't answer right away. After a moment of silence, he said apologetically, I'd like to help, but unfortunately, my strength is too low. I'm willing but not able. Don't worry. The sect never intended for you to go alone, Zhang Tianlin said, clapping his hands. 5 people stepped forward from behind him. Among them were 3 men and 2 women. The 3 men. One wore black robes and carried a heavy sword on his back. One wore blue robes with a 3-foot-long sword hanging from his waist. One was thin with 2 curved blades on his back. The 2 women. One wore a bright red long robe with heavy makeup and alluring red lipstick. The other wore a floral qipao with her hair in 2 buns, and had a very sweet smile. Fang Xiang, Lu Rufeng, Mu Zhoubai, Yin Rong, Lu Yi. After they had all introduced themselves, Su Zimo nodded slightly and said, Lin Qiu. At that moment, Huang Fuxianyue walked into the courtyard. She said, Father, I want to go too. Xiener, Huang Fuxian looked at her, a bit surprised. Since all of us have sent people, if your daughter wants to go too, you can't play favorites, the World King said with a smile. Go then, I can't stop you anyway, the Red King said irritably, waving his hand. Thank you, Father, Huang Fuxianyue said with a smile, bowing slightly. Seeing the 7 of them assembled, Zhang Tianlin smiled in satisfaction and then said solemnly, You are the hope of the sect, and you should know what mission you bear. I won't say any more unnecessary words. If you succeed and return, your deeds will be recorded in the sect's annals. I'm counting on you all. Having said this, Zhang Tianlin bowed to them with the dignity of a sect master. The 6 kings behind him also bowed slightly, showing their respect. All right, Su Zimo nodded seriously. No matter how perilous the journey ahead, we shall not fail in our duty. Good. You are all the pride of our Empyrean sect, Zhang Tianlin said, eyes slightly misty, and added, Take care. Sect Master, should we depart now? Su Zimo asked. They're all ready. It's up to you. If you want to take a moment to prepare, that's fine too, Zhang Tianlin replied. No need. I'd hate to keep everyone waiting, Su Zimo said with a smile. Besides, I don't have much to pack. Then let's head out now, Huang Fuxianyue added. Zhou, let's go, Su Zimo called. What's the rush, young Master Lin? You're coming back, aren't you? Better let Miss Zhou stay here in the sect. The Misty Forest is full of dangers. It's better she doesn't go, the World King suggested. Su Zimo chuckled. So they're afraid I won't come back and want to keep Zhou as a hostage? Zhang Tianlin frowned slightly but didn't object. He despised such tactics, but the matter was too important. There was no room for error. Better safe than sorry. All right then. Jiuyu, stay here in the Empyrean sect for a while, Su Zimo said, nodding. Jiuyu looked worried but didn't argue. She could only nod helplessly. Thanks to their storage rings, no one had anything to pack. After introducing themselves, the group left the Empyrean sect under the watchful eyes of Zhang Tianlin and the others, heading southeast toward the misty forest. Watching them disappear into the distance, the Red King said with concern, "Leaving the future of the sect in the hands of a few young ones, do you really think this will work? If I had another choice, I would never gamble like this," Zhang Tianlin said quietly. "We must stay behind to guard the sect. These are the best disciples of their generation." Sigh. The ancestor? The Red King paused and asked, "Is he really gone?" "That's not for you to know," Zhang Tianlin said, casting him a glance. "Then what should we do now?" King Zhe asked. "Activate the Guardian formation. Open all domain barriers. We'll defend the sect together for as long as we can," Zhang Tianlin instructed. "And make sure to hide some disciples. If something truly disastrous happens, at least we'll have a spark of hope left." The brilliant sun in the sky shone brightly, casting its light across the world. The seven of them marched forward in the autumn breeze, just as summer was beginning its journey. "Hey everyone, don't be so tense. Let's lighten up a bit," Mu Zhoubai said with a laugh. He carried 2 curved blades on his back. Though not fat, his belly was a bit round. "How much do you know about the Misty Forest?" asked Feng Xiang, who wore a black robe and carried a heavy sword. He was calm and reserved. "I've been there once," said Lu Yi, one of the women in the group. "The hardest part is not knowing directions, north, south, east, west. It's easy to get lost forever in there. And there are also hidden spirit beasts lurking in the shadows." "You've been there?" Huang Fuxianyue asked, surprised. "Well, not really. I just tagged along with others near the edge once, but we got out quickly," Louis said, a bit embarrassed. Chapter 662, City of Fury. "I think we should understand the Misty Forest better before we go in," Lu Ruffing said. "Though the sect's mission is important, we also have to consider our own safety. If we can't guarantee that, how can we even talk about fusing the blood lizard?" Ruffing is right. "Brother Lin, you probably know more about the blood lizard, right?" Feng Xiang asked, looking at Su Zimo. "Let's study the fusion method," Su Zimo said. Everyone gathered in a circle and took out the fusion manual. Opening the light blue pages, they saw that the content wasn't long but very detailed. The lizard clan had lived for generations in the swamp regions of the Misty Forest, mainly divided into 4 major groups: green lizards, red lizards, yellow lizards, and blue lizards. The strength of a lizard was measured by age and lineage, typically divided into 100-year, 1,000-year, and 10,000-year classes. The fusion process to obtain a blood lizard had 4 stages. First, fuse a 100-year-old green lizard and a 100-year-old red lizard to get a fire lizard. Then, fuse the fire lizard with a 1,000-year-old yellow lizard to get a jade lizard. Next, fuse the jade lizard with a 10,000-year-old blue lizard to obtain a light red lizard. Finally, refine it with divine dragon fire to create the extremely rare blood lizard. The fusion method was detailed in the book. It was worth noting that the fusion could fail, and each fusion required a fusion stone. "This is tough, so complicated," Mu Zhoubai said, patting his head in frustration. "If it were easy, the blood lizard wouldn't be so rare," Yin Rong said after some thought. "After all, rarity brings value. But there's a city next to the Misty Forest. We can gather some intel there." Everyone nodded, put away the book, and headed southeast. Fury City, this was the closest city to the Misty Forest. While most feared the forest and treated it as forbidden land, the people here thrived off it. The main reason was the fusion stones. In Fury City, trade wasn't done with spirit crystals, divine crystals, or demonic crystals, but with fusion stones. Fusion stones weren't just for creating blood lizards. They were used to lure and trap the forest spirit beasts to obtain essence stones, which helped cultivate the physical body. Essence stones weren't impossible to find, but they were rare. Most had to enter the misty forest to kill spirit beasts to obtain them. But people feared getting lost forever in the forest, so few dared venture inside. That's where fusion stones came in, to lure the spirit beasts out so they could be killed outside. As for the history of Fury City, it was said that long ago, a cultivator named the Lord of Fury from the Fusion Heaven realm came here. At first, he wanted to use the spirit beasts to refine his meridian techniques. After killing them, he didn't bother collecting the essence stones. So others followed behind him, picking up what he left behind. Over time, the legend spread of a strange man called Fury, who entered the misty forest at sunrise every day to kill spirit beasts, then left at sunset to rest at a fixed location. Those who followed him eventually gathered at his resting place, and that group formed the early Fury City. As the city grew stronger and more people came, the Lord of Fury appointed people to manage it. He trained in the misty forest for 79 years. That was Fury City's golden era. On the 80th year, the forest was shrouded in mist. He entered as usual and never came back. That final silhouette became the last memory people had of him. After half a month of travel, Su Zimo and the group finally arrived below the walls of Fury City. The tall city stood silent between heaven and earth. Its ancient walls were covered in countless scars, marks left by time. It seemed to speak of its legendary past. Even before entering, the lively energy could be felt. At the city gates, people bustled about, vendors carrying baskets, armored soldiers, and laborers with sheep knives strapped to their backs. Once inside, the group stood out immediately. The women were stunning, and the men graceful, drawing plenty of attention. As the top disciples of the world sovereign Empyrean sect, they carried an unmistakable presence. These people must know the misty forest better than we do. We should gather information before going in, Mu Zhoubai said. Make it quick, the sect is waiting, Lu Ruffing said coldly as always. We don't have time to waste. Got it, Mu Zhoubai replied reluctantly. Su Zimo could tell Mu Zhoubai didn't feel much loyalty to the world sovereign Empyrean sect. He didn't seem to care whether it lived or died. Let's head to an inn. Inns get the best flow of information, Huang Fuxianyue suggested. They soon found an old inn near the gate. The place was worn down, with no guests in sight. The sleepy innkeeper was dozing behind the counter. Fang Xiang cleared his throat. What are you yelling for? Can't you see I'm sleeping? The innkeeper snapped impatiently, standing up and grumbling. What's that attitude? We came here to eat, and this is how you treat customers. In Rong said angrily. The innkeeper looked up and glared at her, then froze, eyes widening when he saw the three women. He was stunned, mouth hanging open, even drooling a little. Looking to die? Mu Zhoubai said coldly. A flying dagger unsheathed from his back with a sharp clang, embedding itself into a nearby table. The table split apart instantly. The innkeeper snapped out of his daze. I'm sorry. I must have been half asleep. Please don't mind me, honored guests. He quickly apologized with a flattering smile. Bring us your best food and drinks, Mu Zhoubai said, tossing him a spirit stone and sitting down calmly. The rest had considered leaving for another inn, but after that scene, they reluctantly sat down too. Of course. I'll bring you all our specialties, the innkeeper said, fawning. You come here. I have a few questions, Mu Zhoubai said, motioning him over. Chapter 663, The Second Young Master. Ask away, sir. The innkeeper hurried over with a flattering smile. I know everything there is to know in Fury City. There's hardly anything I don't know. That impressive? Mu Zhoubai said with a grin. Want me to take a guess? The innkeeper chuckled. He paced back and forth a bit, then chuckled again. Hurry up and spit it out. Don't play games, Mu Zhoubai said impatiently. Anyone who comes to Fury City is usually here for the Misty Forest, right? The innkeeper said with a smirk. Well, you guessed right, Mu Zhoubai replied in surprise. What's so strange about that? Fury City is out in the middle of nowhere. Why else would people come here? It has to be the Misty Forest. The innkeeper laughed. Since you know that, tell me about the Misty Forest. Su Zimo said. Well, I can't give that info for free. The innkeeper shook his head. He continued, in recent years, more and more people have come here to hunt spirit beasts. This city survives entirely thanks to the Misty Forest. If you want to know anything, you'll have to buy my intel. How much does it cost? Su Zimo asked curiously. Basic info about the Misty Forest, 100 fusion stones. A map, 1,000 fusion stones. If you want to know about the swampland, that's 3,000 fusion stones. The innkeeper said with a grin. These prices were set by the House of Fury in the city. Nothing I can do about it. But we just arrived in Fury City. Where are we supposed to get fusion stones? Fang Xiang frowned. Besides, we need those stones ourselves. Well, I can't help with that. The innkeeper shrugged. If you've got valuables, you can sell them at a pawn shop in the city. Or you can go to the arena. If you win, you'll get fusion stones. Arena? Su Zimo touched his chin, intrigued. Let's check it out after we eat, Lu Ruffing said calmly. Not long after, the inn's food was ready. They brought out a huge table's worth of dishes, mostly various cuts of spirit beast meat. Let's try to at least get a map of the Misty Forest, Fang Xiang said after some thought. Then gather more fusion stones for the blood lizard fusion. But we don't know what level the fighters in Fury City's arena are, Huangfu Xianyue said, frowning. What level could they possibly be? This backwater place is nothing compared to our world's sovereign Empyrean sect, Mu Zhoubai said as he stuffed his mouth with meat. Once we're done, we'll be famous around here. Still, we should be cautious. Let's observe first, Lu Yi said. Fury City isn't that simple. I've been here before. As the group ate and discussed their plans, there was a loud bang. The inn's door was kicked open. A handsome young man walked in, holding a folding fan. He was quite attractive, but his face was pale and sickly, and his steps were weak, clearly in poor health. Behind him were two burly men. They were over 2 meters tall, with exaggerated muscles bulging all over. Each step they took made their extra fat jiggle. Both were bald and looked like twins, with scarred faces that made them look like vicious thugs. The innkeeper was suddenly standing beside the young man. Young Master Nuyang, look over there, the innkeeper said, pointing proudly at the 3 girls at Su Zimo's table. The white-robed youth brushed the hair from his forehead and looked at the girls. When his gaze landed on Lu Yi, his eyes lit up with a strange smile. Lu Yi was petite with her hair in 2 buns. Her slim figure was wrapped in a floral robe, hiding her delicate waist. She gave off a soft, vulnerable vibe that sparked a protective instinct. Yin Rong, on the other hand, had the look of a mature seductress, heavy makeup, alluring and confident. Not bad, not bad. You've done well. Nuyang patted the innkeeper's shoulder and laughed, walking over. Su Zimo's group kept eating quietly as Nuyang approached and cupped his fists, laughing. Everyone, let's get to know each other. I'm Nuyang, second young master of the House of Fury. As soon as he finished speaking, silence fell over the room. Everyone kept eating, completely ignoring him. Nuyang looked slightly embarrassed and wiped his mouth awkwardly. The innkeeper shouted, Didn't you hear the second young master talking? Typical outsiders, no manners. No wonder you don't even have any fusion stones. Let me give you a tip. Hand over the 3 girls and you can have all the fusion stones you want. Don't forget, the House of Fury controls 80% of this city's business. Lu Ruffing calmly wiped his sword. As soon as the innkeeper finished talking, a flash of sword light streaked across the room, cutting him off. His head hit the ground with a dull thud. The sword was so fast that Nuyang didn't even hear it being drawn or see the attack. Blood spurted from the neck like a fountain, staining the floor red. You killed him, Nuyang said calmly. He didn't even frown, as if killing was nothing to him. So what? Lu Ruffing replied coolly. His sharp features were as defined as a sword's edge. I hate guys more handsome than me, Nuyang said flatly. Want to fight? Mu Zhoubai slammed the table and shouted. I'll remember you all, Nuyang said and glanced down at the corpse in disgust, then kicked it aside. Disgusting. What the hell? We just got here and already pissed off the local tyrants, Mu Zhoubai said coldly. If our world sovereign Empyrean sect weren't in trouble, we'd have wiped Fury City off the map already. Blame us, huh? Huang Fu Xianyue chuckled. What now? Lu Ruffing asked. Let's check out the arena. If we can win fusion stones, all the better, Su Zimo said, standing up. Everyone nodded and left the inn without bothering about what would happen next. The arena was a trademark feature of Fury City. It had a history going back 1,000 years. Legend had it that even during the time of the Lord of Fury, this tradition already existed. Both sides in the duel would wager fusion stones. The winner would receive 80% of the loser's fusion stones. The remaining 20% went to cover the arena's venue and management fees. Chapter 664, The Match. After all, the arena required frequent maintenance, which was funded by the House of Fury. Moreover, the rules and order of the matches were also managed by the House of Fury. If anyone violated the agreements, the House of Fury would help recover the fusion stones. There was also an interesting rule at the arena. If you're an outsider without any fusion stones but still want to participate and win some, you could apply for a loan from the House of Fury. The collateral? Your freedom. By pledging your future freedom, you could exchange for fusion stones from the House of Fury. If you failed to repay in time, you'd have to serve as a slave for them. When the group arrived at the center of the city, they found the place bustling with activity. Fighters and spectators were arriving in a steady stream. Vendors pushed carts and shouted around the area. It was a lively and prosperous scene. In the heart of the city stood the arena, shaped like a blooming lotus flower, with 5 separate platforms. Surrounding it was a coliseum-like structure with wide spectator stands that could easily hold at least 10,000 people. The arena took up the majority of the central plaza, and many shops had been built around it, relying on it for business. When Su Zimo and the others arrived, several thousand spectators were already seated, making it a very lively scene. In front of the arena was a checkpoint. Entering the spectator area was easy. It only required 1 fusion stone. As the group arrived, they were stopped by disciples of the House of Fury guarding the entrance. 1 fusion stone per person. Don't you know the rules? One of the disciples said. We don't have any, Mu Zhoubai replied. No fusion stones? The disciple casually pointed to a few places nearby. You must be new. There's a pawn shop over there where you can trade valuable items for fusion stones. There's also a loan station run by our House of Fury. Feel free to choose. The group exchanged glances. Lu Ruffing asked, Do any of you have anything valuable? Let's each offer something, Huang Fu Xianyue said first. I've got a Meridian Technique manual from a world paragon. It has nothing to do with the sect. I came across it by chance. I have a netherwood herb left over from my cultivation, another said. Everyone took out something. Su Zimo casually pulled out a Meridian Technique manual he'd once read at the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. After taking their items to the pawn shop and getting them appraised, they were able to exchange them for 1,200 fusion stones. Fusion stones were daily essentials here, valuable but relatively cheap. Let's go win big at the arena. Screw the House of Fury, Mu Zhoubai said. The group entered the arena and finally felt the sheer size of the place. Directly ahead were 2 passageways. The right led to the spectator stands, the left to the fighters' tunnel. You girls should head to the stands. This rough stuff is better left to us men, Fang Xiang said. What, you looking down on us? I'll have you know, even if all of you fought me together, you wouldn't win, Huang Fu Xianyue said. She was the saintess of the World Sovereign Empyrean sect, a position that required both top-tier strength and talent. Mu Zhoubai laughed from the side. We're just going in first to test the waters. If it gets rough, you can take over. Now that sounds reasonable, Huang Fu Xianyue smiled. But let's all go in together. It's safer that way. Everyone nodded and entered the contestant tunnel. It seemed to be built underground. The lighting was dim on both sides. Not far in, they reached a large door. In front of it sat a table where someone was registering participants. As they approached, the person looked up and asked, Which tier match? 100, 1,000, 10,000, or higher. Let's do the 100-tier, they replied after a moment of thought. After all, they only had limited fusion stones. Without meeting the requirements, they couldn't enter. Take these tokens to register, the man said, handing out a few iron tokens. Su Zimo took one and examined it. It was a simple iron token with the character 100 engraved on it. Once they passed through the gate, their view widened dramatically. They had entered a massive underground city. The uneven walls were lined with flaming skulls, serving as torches. People moved around busily. It was packed with contestants. Su Zimo took a quick count. There were several hundred people. All of them gave off intense killing intent. Their eyes were cold and indifferent to life, clearly the type who lived by the sword. All sorts of people moved through the space. Up ahead, a queue had formed. That was the waiting area for fighters about to go on stage. Be careful, Huang Fuxianyue reminded. Let's split up in line. We don't want to end up fighting each other. That shouldn't happen, Lu Ruffing said, glancing at the rules carved on a nearby wall. She explained, after each match, contestants in the waiting area can choose whether or not to challenge the winner. If too many step up to challenge, one is selected by random draw. Everyone nodded. Mu Zhoubai said, then we just won't queue up if someone else is challenging next. So who's going first? Huang Fuxianyue asked. I'll go, Mu Zhoubai said after thinking for a moment. Let me test the difficulty of this arena. The others nodded. In the underground hall, a large projection mirror on the left wall displayed the battles from above so everyone could watch. After Mu Zhoubai waited in the queue for a few minutes, the arena's system worked quickly. Soon, an opponent had been matched with him. Mu Zhoubai walked up a stairway through the now open gate, step by step, to the outdoor arena. 100-tier arena match. Mu Zhoubai versus Kuangfeng. Begin. The referee waved a flag and shouted loudly. The arena's rules were simple, either one side surrendered or one side died. As Mu Zhoubai stepped onto the stage, his opponent appeared. A black-robed man with one eye. His left eye was covered with a black eye patch, and he looked extremely fierce. Kid, still wet behind the ears and you dare come here? The one-eyed man sneered. Noisy, Mu Zhoubai snorted coldly. The curved blade on his back unsheathed and he charged at the man. Whirling wind blade technique, Mu Zhoubai shouted, leaping into the air. His two curved blades moved as if extensions of his arms, fluid and natural. Senior brother Mu has used twin blades since childhood. His strength ranks in the top 5 among the true disciples, Huang Fuxianyue said from the sidelines. Chapter 665, Cross/Execution. As the two curved blades came whirling like a storm, the one-eyed man sneered with disdain. He gently tapped his right foot on the ground, and the large saber on his back flew into his hand. It was a broad saber, about half a meter wide, with two gear-like grooves along its blade. Unlike Mu Zhoubai's swift style, the one-eyed man's moves were bold and heavy, carrying the aura of an unstoppable force. Their blades clashed, sparking with each impact. Mu Zhoubai's expression shifted slightly. He could feel the strength from his opponent's blade. It was even greater than his own. He quickly stabilized his stance, dodging continuously, and attacked with a barrage of tight, seamless strikes. Junior brother Mu's attacks are agile and unpredictable, but he lacks raw power, Lu Ruffing observed. But although the opponent is strong, he lacks speed and technique. It's still too early to call the outcome. On stage, both fighters unleashed fierce blows. As time passed, the one-eyed man began to grow anxious. Mu Zhoubai moved like an eel, he couldn't even land a hit. Meanwhile, he had already suffered several light injuries from Mu's sharp strikes. Is dodging all you can do? The one-eyed man shouted angrily. Cross/execution. Mu Zhoubai sneered as the man left an opening. His two curved blades crossed together, forming a cross. At that moment, his figure seemed to merge with the void. Everything in the world vanished except the cross-shaped blades. Mu himself disappeared. Before the one-eyed man could react, there was a loud boom. The cross blades slammed directly into his chest. Blood splattered as the blades pierced through his torso and emerged from the back. Mu Zhoubai reappeared behind him, holding the crossed blades coldly, eyes fixed on the dying man. How? The one-eyed man looked down at his chest wound before collapsing. His body was instantly torn apart. Victory in the 100-tier match. Mu Zhoubai, the judge said calmly from the side. As a judge here, he had long grown numb to death. People died here every day, locals and outsiders alike. Life had little value in this place. Guards came to drag the corpse away. The judge looked at Mu Zhoubai and asked, "You've won 80 fusion stones. Do you want to continue?" "Why not?" Mu Zhoubai replied with a faint smile. Beside the arena stood an opulent restaurant named Hero Tower. It had 6 floors. The first 4 were open to anyone with money. The 5th required status. The 6th was reserved for true champions. It was said that only those who won 100 matches in the arena could qualify to enter the 6th floor of Hero Tower. At that moment, on the 5th floor of Hero Tower, divided into private rooms with panoramic views of the arena below, a prime spot for watching the fights. "Young master, they've all gone to the arena," a servant reported as Nuyang drank wine. "They won." Nuyang walked to the window and asked flatly. "They won 1 match. They're in the 100-tier group," the servant replied respectfully. "Send Withered Bones in for the next round," Nuyang said casually. "Young master, that might not be appropriate. We rarely interfere with the arena's matches." The servant hesitated. "Fu, are you questioning my orders now?" Nuyang turned, smiling. "I wouldn't dare. I'll arrange it immediately." The servant quickly bowed and left. On the arena stage, Mu Zhoubai waited for a long time. Just as he grew impatient, the underground gate opened, and an old man stepped out. The surrounding crowd fell silent in shock. Ancestor Withered Bones? Isn't he usually in the 10,000-tier fights? What's he doing in the 100-tier? Maybe someone pissed him off, another person guessed. Whatever the reason, that kid's in trouble. Not necessarily. Just surrender if you run into Withered Bones. Worst case, you lose a few fusion stones. The audience buzzed with chatter. Clearly, Ancestor Withered Bones had a fearsome reputation. He usually fought in the 10,000-tier matches, where each win earned 10,000 fusion stones. He never even glanced at the 100-tier level. He wore a large black robe that covered his entire body. As he walked, his steps made a sharp creaking sound, like bones grinding. "Give up. That man is dangerous," Huangfu Xianyue warned from below. "But with junior brother Mu's temperament, I doubt he'll surrender so easily," Fang Xiang said. Mu Zhoubai stared at the old man in front of him, then slowly drew his twin blades. Gripping tightly, his aura gradually intensified. With a loud roar, he stepped back with 1 foot and launched forward, cracking the floor beneath him. As he charged, Ancestor Withered Bones kept his head down, completely still. The distance between them closed. Suddenly, the old man looked up. His face, hidden beneath the robe, came into view, sunken and pale with not an ounce of flesh. Worse still, he had no eyes, only 2 faint blue flames in their place. The moment Mu Zhoubai saw those flames, it was as if thunder struck him. He froze in place. "Not good, soul attack." Lu Ruffing stood up in alarm. Ancestor Withered Bones gave a cruel smile. He raised his right hand, palm upward, and flicked his index finger. A loud boom echoed. The arena floor beneath Mu Zhoubai exploded, and a massive white bone burst upward. It pierced through his back, impaling him on the bone like a skewer. Blood sprayed into the air. Mu Zhoubai hung limp on the spike, unconscious, his fate uncertain. The blood-stained bone was a gruesome sight. The rest of the group's expressions turned grim. "This guy, he's not even in the same league," Fang Xiang said. "I think you've misunderstood something," Su Zimo added. "Among the younger generation, you are indeed the strongest disciples. Within your age group, few can match you. But on this arena stage, age doesn't matter. Those older than you can still easily defeat you." Hearing that, Lu Ruffing took a deep breath and began walking toward the arena. Chapter 666. To senior sister's room. Senior brother Lu? Where are you going? Lu Yi shouted from behind. To avenge junior brother Mu, Lu Ruffing said calmly. This dash everyone was stunned. Huang Fuxianyue stepped into the air, blocking Lu Rufing's path. She said, Do you want to die? Then should I just watch as junior brother Mu dies in front of me? Lu Ruffing responded. Mu Zhoubai may not be dead yet. Getting him treatment is the priority. Don't forget our mission, Huang Fuxianyue said coldly. Although the true disciples often competed and schemed against one another, it was said that Mu Zhoubai and Lu Ruffing were very close brothers. Their rivalry was healthy and respectful. Now seeing his brother nearly killed on stage, how could Lu Ruffing not be enraged? Let's save him first, Su Zimo said as he stood and walked toward the arena. Coincidentally, Mu Zhoubai had lost the ability to fight, and the judge declared the match over. 2 staff members carried Mu Zhoubai's body underground, ready to discard it, but were stopped by Su Zimo and the others. You're with him. The 2 staff members didn't bother asking more questions and handed over the body. Too many people died in the arena daily, so a corpse storage area had been built. Unclaimed bodies were thrown in and cleaned out periodically. How is he? Huang Fuxianyue asked urgently as the group checked Mu Zhoubai's injuries. He's not breathing, Lu Ruffing said coldly, sitting on the ground. That guy clearly intended to kill, Fang Xiang said angrily, glancing between the cold corpse and ancestor Withered Bones still on the arena stage. After Withered Bones had appeared, the 100-tier arena fell into a rare silence. No one dared to fight. All the candidates in the waiting area withdrew, unwilling to face him. Boring, Withered Bones sneered and left the stage, heading toward the 10,000-tier arena. Only once he left did the other contestants re-enter the waiting area and resume the lively matches. By now, night was falling, marking the end of a day of fighting. The spectators gradually began to leave. Mu Zhoubai had no breath left. The group buried him outside of Fury City, on a scenic hillside. They then returned to the inn, the mood heavy. I really don't think this was a coincidence, Fang Xiang said. Withered Bones is far too high level to fight here. It definitely wasn't a coincidence. Thinking about it now, someone clearly targeted us, Lu Ruffing said. Targeted us? Who would do that? We haven't offended Yin Rong paused, suddenly realizing. Nuyang? Could it be him? This whole arena belongs to the House of Fury. What do you think? Huang Fuxianyue replied. This is outrageous. Lu Ruffing slammed the table and growled. When has our world's sovereign Empyrean sect ever suffered this kind of humiliation in the southern region? These are difficult times. The sect is preoccupied dealing with those 2 dragons. Who has time to worry about this mess? Huang Fuxianyue sighed. I'll try again tomorrow. Either way, we need the Misty Forest map and fusion stones. Without them, even if we reach the forest, we won't be able to complete the mission. Forget it. It's getting late. Let's sleep. Su Zimo waved it off. Everything happens in its time. We'll come up with a plan tomorrow. Everyone nodded. No one felt like eating anymore, so they went upstairs to rest in their rooms. The moonlight was bright, and Fury City's night remained lively. The streets were packed with people, lanterns hung high, and many night market vendors had just come out. In contrast to the bustling streets, the inn was quiet. While Su Zimo was cultivating, he heard a knock on the door. He got out of bed and opened it to find Huang Fuxianyue standing outside. She seemed to have just bathed, with a captivating fragrance lingering on her. She wore a slightly revealing robe. Her fair, long legs were bare, and her upper body was draped in a sheer, see-through garment. The scene was suggestive, almost dreamlike. Senior sister Huangfu, what is this? Su Zimo asked curiously. Junior brother Su, I have something I'd like to ask you. Could we go to my room? Huang Fuxianyue blushed and asked shyly. Sure. Su Zimo nodded. He followed her into the room next door. As they entered, it was pitch black inside. Suddenly, Huang Fuxianyue collapsed into his arms, her warm body pressed close. Junior brother. She looked up. eyes filled with emotion. Senior sister, what are you doing? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Don't speak. Come with me, she whispered, gently placing a finger over his lips. She shook her head, then led him by the hand to the table. Su Zimo sat in the chair, and Huang Fuxianyue sat on his lap. Do you like your senior sister? She asked, her eyes hazy. No. Su Zimo shook his head. Her expression stiffened. She wrapped her arms slowly around his neck and exhaled softly. What about now? Just say what you need to say, senior sister. I'm busy. I still need to cultivate, Su Zimo replied, annoyed. Why so eager? Huang Fuxianyue laughed, covering her mouth. Afraid I'll eat you? Maybe, Su Zimo chuckled. As he spoke, he grabbed her right hand, which was behind his back, and brought it in front of them. Her right hand was now pitch black, wrapped in demonic energy. Her fingernails were several dozen centimeters long, sharp, and cold. Even though he held a beautiful woman, Su Zimo felt like he was embracing a block of ancient ice. The entire room's temperature dropped. Before he could speak again, a magic circle appeared beneath the floor. It was like a black hole, from which countless iron chains extended. They wrapped around the chair, binding Su Zimo tightly in place. The dark prison, this is a 6th grade formation. Don't bother struggling, Huang Fuxianyue said with a laugh. She traced her long nails along his neck and whispered, My dear junior brother, you once saved me on Goddess Mountain, and I truly didn't want to kill you. But it's not your fault. You just happen to be a remnant of the ancient demon race. Senior sister, what are you doing? Su Zimo asked in alarm. It's nothing. Death only lasts a moment. I'll make it quick, Huang Fuxianyue said with a smile. Chapter 667 Game Over. Well, since I'm going to die anyway, can't you at least tell me the truth? Su Zimo said with a bitter smile. You want to die knowing the truth? Huang Fuxianyue laughed. Yes. Su Zimo nodded slightly. Fine, I'll tell you. Since you saved me back on Goddess Mountain, Huang Fuxianyue said. There are countless races in this world, all living within the laws of the Tao. Among them, the most recognized and feared are the demon race and the god race. During the era ruled by those two races, even humans had to step aside. I know that much, Su Zimo nodded. Then have you heard of a race called the Heaven Devourer race? Huang Fuxianyue asked with a smile. What's that? Su Zimo shook his head. They're a minor race. It's normal that you've never heard of them, Huang Fuxianyue said. There aren't many of them, but their ability is terrifying. They can devour other races and make their powers their own. The only drawback is that they can only devour once in their lifetime. If they devour something powerful, that's great. But if they devour something weaker than themselves, their entire future is ruined. So for them, choosing their target is extremely important. I think I understand. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. The god race and demon race are the strongest races in the world. So the Heaven Devourer race chooses to devour one of those two for their first and only devouring. He looked at Huang Fuxianyue and said, You're one of them. Smart. During the God-Demon era, there were plenty of targets. But in this era, not to mention purebloods, even remnants of those races are rare, Huang Fuxianyue said. Do you know how lucky I was to find you? It's a pity. You're someone I would have liked to keep by my side if you weren't of those two races. You sensed my demonic energy at the first Eternal Shop, didn't you? Su Zimo said. Yes. When I brought you into the World Sovereign Empyrean sect, my plan was nearly complete. After absorbing your power, even the marriage agreement with the Eternal God sect wouldn't be able to hold me back. Huang Fuxianyue sneered. But those two dragons interrupted me. I can't afford to wait any longer, so I have to deal with you now. If you kill me, what will you tell Lu Ruffing and the others? Su Zimo asked. There's nothing to tell. You and I are the only ones who know what happened, Huang Fuxianyue said with a light laugh. I still have to help you find the blood lizard. Without me, the World Sovereign Empyrean sect is doomed. Su Zimo said, unwilling to give up. I don't care if the world sovereign Empyrean sect is doomed. All I know is that once I absorb your demonic power, my martial prowess will skyrocket. Huangfu Xianyue said as she stepped closer to Su Zimo. All right, I've said all I wanted. Die with some dignity. She grabbed Su Zimo's right hand, and a strange energy began to flow from her body. A purple line extended from her heart, traveling down her arm and entering Su Zimo's body through his hand. Goodbye, Huangfu Xianyue said with a cold smile, activating her power. But the next moment her smile froze. As the purple thread entered Su Zimo's body, she felt as though she had fallen into a bottomless swamp. She couldn't absorb anything. Worse yet, she couldn't pull away. She jerked her head up, staring at Su Zimo in shock. At some point, cold sweat had begun to bead on her forehead. Having fun, Su Zimo said calmly, smiling. You? Huangfu Xianyue stared at him, speechless. Where do you think those two dragons came from? Why do you think I agreed to help you look for the blood lizard? Su Zimo said, still smiling. Don't be stupid. We were all just playing along. As he finished speaking, a violent force surged from Su Zimo's body into hers. It tore apart her meridians and destroyed her internal organs completely. Huangfu Xianyue collapsed to the floor like a pile of dead meat. Su Zimo clapped his hands and looked down at the corpse. Heaven Devourer race, huh? Interesting. The night passed silently, and as dawn broke, the disciples of the world's sovereign Empyrean sect emerged from their rooms and gathered on the first floor of the inn for breakfast. As everyone arrived, Fang Xiang was the first to speak. Everyone, I thought about it last night. If we really can't handle this, we should return to the sect and bring some elders. The House of Fury should still give our world sovereign Empyrean sect some face. Why isn't senior sister Huangfu down yet? Yin Rong asked, frowning. I'll go call her, Lu Yi said, nodding. She had just gone upstairs when a sudden scream rang out. What happened? Lu Rufing's expression changed. He moved like the wind, instantly appearing on the second floor. The others rushed up after him. As they entered the room, a faint stench hit their noses. Near the table, Lu Yi had collapsed, and across from her, a corpse lay flat on the floor. It's senior sister Huangfu, Yin Rong cried out. She's dead, Fang Xiang said, face pale and voice trembling. Huangfu Xianyue lay on the ground, her face completely drained of color. She was unmistakably, thoroughly dead. What happened? Fang Xiang closed his eyes and took a deep breath. We didn't hear any fighting last night. To kill senior sister Huangfu silently like this, what kind of monster could do that? I don't want to stay here anymore. Let's go back to the sect, Lu Yi said anxiously. How are we supposed to explain this to the sect master? Lu Rufing asked. All right, stop scaring yourselves. First, take care of senior sister Huangfu's body. Su Zimo said calmly. I'll go to the arena today. I'm up. Are you sure? Fang Xiang asked. Or would you like to go? Su Zimo replied. On second thought, you go, Fang Xiang quickly said. He knew he wasn't much stronger than Mu Zhoubai, whose gruesome death still haunted him. The others didn't object, though the mood was gloomy. They took Huangfu Xianyue's corpse outside the city and buried her beside Mu Zhoubai. Then, led by Su Zimo, they returned to the arena. The autumn wind blew bleakly, lifting fallen leaves into the sky. Inside the arena, the atmosphere was just as intense as the day before. The group made their way down to the waiting area. 100-tier match. Lin Xiu versus Madman. The referee announced loudly at the edge of the ring. As the waiting area gate opened, Su Zimo stepped onto the arena. Be careful, Lu Yi called after him. Let's set a small goal, Su Zimo said with a smile. Maybe win 100 straight. Chapter 668 Battle. As Su Zimo stepped out onto the arena stage, a muscular man wearing a black vest appeared opposite him. Even from a distance, the explosive force of his muscles was obvious. Seeing this, the spectators began to chatter. Madman's recovered from his injuries, huh? Looks like he's back again. Even though he lost to Dark Blade in their duel, it was still a respectable fight. But this young man looks unfamiliar. Ignoring the noise around him, Madman lifted his head arrogantly and looked at Suzumo. He raised his chin and said, "Will you surrender now or wait until I knock you flat?" Noisy. Suzumo shook his head. With a step forward, spirit force surged around him, and in the next instant he appeared behind Madman. "So fast!" Madman exclaimed in shock. "Heavy drop!" he shouted, his muscles bulging as his whole body slammed down onto the ground like a 1,000-pound weight. Suzumo chuckled. With ease, he grabbed Madman by the waist and effortlessly lifted him, throwing him into the air. Madman crashed heavily to the ground, and the sound of cracking echoed as the arena floor fractured. "I surrender! I surrender!" Madman quickly slapped the ground and shouted. He gave up extremely fast, knowing the arena rules: if you didn't surrender, even if your opponent killed you, they wouldn't be held responsible. In truth, Madman still had stronger moves, but seeing how easily he was defeated, he knew he stood no chance. Continuing the fight would only mean death. 100-tier match. Lin Chiu wins. Continue? The referee asked, looking at Suzumo. Continue. No need to ask me again. Just send the next one up, Suzumo said calmly. With Madman easily defeated, the waiting area matched the next opponent. "I'll go," a loud voice shouted from the floor. An elderly man holding a staff stepped out. He looked energetic with short black hair. His long robe was flashy, mottled blue and black with streaks of red. "It's Thunder Ancestor." Those who frequented the arena instantly recognized him. They say his staff was made from the heart of a thunder beast, and his specialty is soul attacks. This'll be good. Even Madman can't handle him. Thunder Ancestor's style is mysterious and tricky. As Thunder Ancestor stepped onto the stage, arcs of lightning began to emit from his staff. Thunder circled his body. Light blue lightning mixed with deep purple bolts. "Boy, my soul attacks are even uncontrollable for me. At best, you'll be a vegetable. At worst, you'll die. Take my advice. Step down," Thunder Ancestor said proudly, standing still. "You look like a rare talent. I'd hate to destroy such a promising seedling." "Sounds like you're scared," Suzumo said with a faint smile. "Foolish," Thunder Ancestor snorted. He spun his staff and a bolt of lightning shot straight at Suzumo. Boom! The thunder exploded on Suzumo's chest, and the crowd saw a flash of light. But when they looked closely, Suzumo remained standing on the stage, completely unharmed. "That's it." Suzumo brushed his chest and calmly walked toward Thunder Ancestor. "You're looking for death," Thunder Ancestor shouted. His staff flared with intense light, followed by thunderous roars all around. Countless lightning bolts surged from the staff, forming dragon-like arcs that howled towards Suzumo. Suzumo's expression didn't change. He didn't even stop walking. The lightning bombarded him, but he didn't react at all. He twisted his neck and kept moving forward, slow and steady. "Impressive," Thunder Ancestor muttered. He channeled more lightning through his staff, but this time, hidden among the lightning was a soul serpent, slithering silently towards Suzumo. Crackling sounds rang out again. Watching the lightning storm, Thunder Ancestor smiled proudly. "Boy, you're paying for your arrogance. Hidden in that thunder is my soul attack." Just as he finished speaking, the sound of footsteps suddenly echoed. Despite the loud crowd and thunder on stage, those footsteps were crystal clear, like they weren't hitting the ground but his very heart. From the crackling lightning, a calm figure emerged. "You?" Thunder Ancestor was stunned. He opened his mouth, but the pounding pressure of the footsteps made it hard to breathe. Suzumo appeared before him, step by step. Thunder Ancestor swallowed hard. With a loud crack, Suzumo crushed his staff in one hand. He turned around and walked away, not sparing the man another glance. "You're not killing me?" Thunder Ancestor sighed in relief. But a moment later his eyes widened. There was a soft thump. His heart seemed to stop, then exploded. He collapsed to the ground without warning. "If I keep fighting like this, how long will it take?" Suzumo shook his head. Looking at the crowd, he shouted, Anyone got a blade I can borrow? The crowd was silent for a moment. Then, a young noble in fine robes smiled. At his signal, a nearby guard tossed a blade up onto the stage. You can borrow it, the noble said. Nice blade, Suzimo said as he caught it, examining it with a smile. Though it was still inferior to his own weapon, Shadow Tyrant, unfortunately left back on the primordial heartlands, this one was forged from Nethergod iron. Its materials and craftsmanship were top-notch. Though Thunder Ancestor had been defeated, the arena was full of hidden talents. Most fighters there didn't accept defeat easily. Besides placing fusion stone bets on the matches, there was also gambling around the fights. Each match allowed people to bet on their favored fighters. Many contestants had others place bets on them, then went in and fought, winning both the prize and the gambling payout. Of course, this was only for those supremely confident in their strength. Initially, Suzimo's odds weren't high, but after defeating two well-known cultivators, Madman and Thunder Ancestor, his odds had multiplied. As the underground gate opened again, a new contestant stepped onto the stage. Chapter 669 Myriad Swords Return to Sect. This time, stepping out was a young man dressed in a blue long robe, holding a long spear. I am Lu Zhou, and today I shall. Enough. I don't need to remember a dead man's name, Suzimo interrupted before the young man could finish. Arrogant. The young man snorted coldly, brandishing his spear, unleashing a sky-shattering spear intent as he charged toward Suzimo. Clang. The sound of a blade being drawn rang out. Before the watching crowd could react, the young man's spear had already snapped in two, and even his body was split in half. One move. Suzimo sheathed his blade and stood still, speaking calmly. That strike. The nobleman in ornate robes who had lent him the blade squinted slightly, rubbing his chin, deep in thought. As Suzimo claimed victory again, the crowd's emotions continued to rise. More challengers entered from the waiting area, but each of them was defeated by Suzimo in a single slash. He didn't even use any powerful meridian techniques, just a single sword-drawing technique, fast to the extreme, too fast for the eye to follow, and enough to end each opponent instantly. 10 opponents, 20. More and more fell before him. Such a spectacle drew the attention of the host family, the House of Fury. At the gambling den, someone even set a bet on Suzimo winning 100 matches in a row. But most people didn't think much of it. Everyone knew that once someone started winning too much, the House of Fury would secretly intervene. They wouldn't allow that kind of streak to continue. The person in charge of the House of Fury's arena was the Patriarch's younger brother, Nu Shiwu. At the moment, after listening to a report from a subordinate, Nu Shiwu frowned slightly and said, "What do you mean there's no one left in the 100-tier division who can fight?" "It's not that there's no one," the subordinate replied hesitantly. "Young Master Darkblade hasn't gone up yet, but we can't control him." "Fools," Nu Shiwu said coldly. "Darkblade doesn't care about fusion stones. He's at the arena purely to refine his meridian techniques and gain combat experience. Go tell him there's a youth his age dominating the arena. If he still considers himself a sword heir, he'll definitely take the challenge." "Yes, sir, I'll go now," the subordinate replied quickly. Back at the arena, Suzimo had already won 29 matches. In the 100-tier waiting area, there was basically no one left, or more accurately, no one dared to go up. So far, no one had survived even one strike from him. Stepping onto the stage meant only one thing: death. With no one entering, the 100-tier division entered a short period of silence. The audience began discussing among themselves. With no one stepping up, how's this match supposed to continue? Just wait. If no one shows up, the 1,000-tier or even 10,000-tier division guys might come. They're just waiting for the betting odds to peak. You think he's aiming to win 100 in a row? Since the arena was founded, no one's ever managed that. Not likely. Do you know how hard it is to win 100 straight? There's no rest in the 100-tier bracket. Does he even have enough spiritual energy left? What about injuries and fatigue? Plus, the opponents get stronger the longer it goes on. It's unrealistic. Just as the speculation grew, the waiting area doors opened again. A refined young man walked out. "It's young Master Darkblade," someone on the stage shouted. The loudest voices came from the women in the audience. The young man wore a long robe with tied sleeves and flowing ribbons. The robe had 4 layers, with white and light blue on the inside. The collar was patterned with white and blue swirling clouds, while the shoulders had white ribbons and blue gems. The outer robe had subtle wave-patterned dark textures that were hard to notice. His gaze was clear, and his long black hair was tied into a topknot with a black hairpin. A white band was tied around his forehead. With a high-nosed bridge, fair skin, sword-shaped eyebrows, and bright eyes, anyone who saw him would sigh and say, "What a handsome face." At his waist hung a blue and white longsword. The characters Sword Heir were engraved on the blade, along with other unreadable runes. His aura was otherworldly, like a character from ancient poetry. "Darkblade," the young man said calmly, looking at Suzumo. So Darkblade finally stepped up, some of the women watching said admiringly. Most of the men scoffed at his appearance, but no one could deny his strength. Since coming to Fury City 3 years ago, he's held the top spot in the 100-tier division. Yeah, he's won 54 straight matches. That's the current record. People discussed animatedly. The 10,000-tier division didn't count, since it was filled with old monsters with long cultivation histories, no match for the younger generation. The 1,000-tier division consisted of established veterans. The 100-tier division, aside from a few low-level cultivators, was mainly a battleground for the younger generation. According to arena rules, those in the 100-tier division could challenge up to the 1,000-tier 3 times per month. Winning a challenge would earn them a spot in the 1,000-tier matches. The same went for 1,000-tier challengers wanting to ascend to the 10,000-tier. To keep things fair, 10,000-tier cultivators also had 3 opportunities per month to fight down in the 100 and 1,000-tier matches. But usually, the top-tier fighters didn't bother stepping down. The rewards were smaller, and most people wouldn't dare face them anyway. Only in cases like Suzumo's, when someone dominated an entire bracket and the betting odds surged, would they take interest. Darkblade was surrounded by sword intent as he calmly looked at Suzumo. When the sound of a blade being drawn rang out, Darkblade closed his eyes slightly and drew his sword. Amidst the swirling sword energy, he dispersed Suzumo's blade aura. Though the blade aura was neutralized, the force within still made Darkblade take 3 steps back. Darkblade's pupils shrank. As he drew his sword, wind and thunder surged around the blade, and sword intent surged skyward. "You're strong," Darkblade said, looking at Suzumo. "So what, planning to surrender?" Suzumo asked with a smile. "Only the strong are worthy of battle," Darkblade replied firmly, stepping his right foot back slightly. He held his sword in his right hand, tilting it at a slight angle. As the sword aura intensified, countless long swords formed from condensed sword energy appeared behind him. "Myriad swords return to Sect," Darkblade said softly, thrusting his sword forward. Boom! All the swords behind him shot forward at once, tearing through the void, shattering space. Suzumo looked up and gently pointed his long blade forward. Chapter 670 Blood Sacrifice. When the long blade was raised, Suzumo casually swung it through the air, and a transparent barrier of blade energy formed in front of him. All the 10,000 swords were blocked by the barrier. On the other side, Darkblade's expression grew serious. On his 3-foot blue and white sword, a beam of extreme light shot up to the clouds. The entire sword was filled with rampant sword aura, splitting the surrounding clouds apart. He stepped into the air, his white long robe fluttering in the wind. "Heaven-shaking shadowless sword," Darkblade whispered as his figure completely vanished from the arena. At this moment, the arena was filled with the echoes of sword and blade shadows. Dense sword lights covered the entire stage, as if space itself was shattered into countless fragments. All just flashy, useless moves. Suzumo shook his head slightly. He raised his right hand, held his blade up, and gently blocked in midair, without making any other moves. Explosions rang out all around, the entire arena space collapsing into chaos. The spectators could hardly see anything as a sword prison enveloped the arena. With a loud boom, the fighting platform collapsed completely. When the sword energy shattered that space, even a mosquito flying through it would die 1,000,000 times over. Only then did the crowd begin to see what was happening inside. Cracks spread from the arena floor, and creaking sounds echoed as it gradually collapsed. The crowd was stunned. This arena was built specifically for combat and had extremely high durability. Dark Blade has grown stronger, someone muttered. Suzumo still stood calmly at the center of the arena. As a sword light descended from the void, Dark Blade's figure slowly appeared to the side. He raised his right hand, and the sword light transformed into his sword and landed in his grasp. This sword of mine, no one of my generation has ever been able to withstand it, Dark Blade said lightly. He looked at Suzumo, seemingly waiting for something to happen. But the image he'd imagined, Suzumo's body torn apart, never came. Suddenly, the robe around Dark Blade's abdomen tore apart, and a line of blood burst out. When? Dark Blade dropped to one knee, his eyes filled with shock as he stared at Suzumo. In his vision, Suzumo had simply raised his blade. He hadn't moved at all. He was sure he had dodged, so how was he still struck? Looking at the figure standing in the center of the arena, Dark Blade felt an inexplicable chill. Did he see through every move of my sword technique from the first slash? So his blade didn't move because that was precisely where my sword's trajectory would go, Dark Blade speculated wildly. There was no other explanation for the strike he had taken. Sometimes your eyes lie to you. Suzumo turned around and said flatly. How are you unharmed? Dark Blade asked, unwilling to accept it. Because you're too weak, Suzumo replied, shaking his head. I'm on the final level, while you're only on the first. Seeing this scene, the crowd erupted, unable to believe their eyes. Dark Blade lost? How is that possible? Who is that guy? I've never seen him before. In the spectator stands, the nobleman who had lent Suzumo the blade narrowed his eyes slightly. He then asked his subordinate beside him, If I remember correctly, Dark Blade is from the Sword Tomb, right? Yes, he's a direct descendant. But I heard he's not very favored within the clan. The subordinate nodded. Interesting. I recall the Sword Tomb has some very unique things, the nobleman said with a smile. Dark Blade lowered his head, watching the blood drip from his abdomen. It had been a long time since he'd been wounded, since he had felt pain. You really are strong. Dark Blade took a deep breath and slowly stood up. I admit it. In a normal fight, I wouldn't be your match. So what? Suzumo asked. I hate the feeling of defeat. Just like the day I left the Sword Tomb, Dark Blade said calmly. No one likes to lose, Suzumo replied. Exactly. That's why I've decided to show you my strongest move, even if it costs my life. Dark Blade picked up his sword. His eyes filled with unspoken emotion, sadness or longing, or perhaps deeply buried madness. He raised his blue and white longsword, and at that moment the sword seemed to sense something. The blade trembled slightly, as if in mourning. That once pure blue and white sword turned blood red, transforming from something sacred to something sinister. He lifted his head. His eyes were completely red, veins bulging on his forehead. All the surrounding spiritual energy gathered into the sword. Blood sacrifice death sword. Dark Blade roared, his blood surging into the blade along with his cry. The crimson of the sword became even more striking, while Dark Blade's face grew paler and paler. His entire being seemed to be drained. Come, let me see how strong you really are. Dark Blade gripped the sword tightly, pouring all his power into one slash. Just one slash. The blood-red sword aura seemed to block out the sun. A beam of sword energy 1,000 meters long burst from the blood sword. Explosions rumbled all around. The bloody sword aura came crashing towards Suzumo with unstoppable force, like a mountain collapsing. After the attack, Dark Blade collapsed to the ground, completely drained. He struggled to raise his head, staring quietly at the sword strike. His power extended beyond the arena. Even the spectators around were terrified, scrambling in panic to avoid it. The referee raised a defensive barrier to shield the entire arena. Watching the attack that seemed to destroy everything, Su Zimo still responded with only one strike. Nothing more. Pure suppression of cultivation realm, pure understanding of meridian technique, and superior insight. With one precise slash at the weakest point of the sword aura. Boom! The blood-red sword energy shattered piece by piece from the center. Its power and killing intent were instantly extinguished. Su Zimo stood there, appearing casual and indifferent, as if that attack hadn't even been worth taking seriously. You? Darkblade coughed several times, staring at Su Zimo in disbelief. That blood sacrifice death sword was a secret technique forbidden to be passed down in the sword tomb. Every swordsman was bonded to a single sword from birth. That sword could accompany them for a lifetime. Only in life and death crises would they use this move, infusing their blood essence into the sword for a desperate final strike. Though Darkblade was only at the World Paragon realm, this attack had the real power of a fusion heaven tier strike. Wouldn't it have been better to just admit defeat early? Why do this to yourself? Su Zimo sighed and shook his head. Chapter 671, 7 Venom Centipede. I admit defeat. Darkblade looked at Su Zimo with a dejected expression and said, And thank you, brother, for sparing my life. Your sword Dao is not pure. You should think about that. Su Zimo waved his hand and said, Thank you for the guidance. Darkblade nodded and smiled bitterly. Perhaps the honor I've enjoyed these past few years in Fury City made me lose my way. After using his final move, Darkblade was completely drained of strength. In the end, the people from the arena had to carry him off. Seeing Darkblade defeated, the audience was unusually silent. Upon hearing the news, Nu Shiwu personally arrived at the arena. My lord! The arena referee quickly stepped forward to greet him. Nu Shiwu waved his hand, stood near the viewing area, glanced at Su Zimo from a distance, and smiled. That young man. Yes, he's already won 30 matches. According to the rules, we must pay him fusion stones at 30 times the rate. The referee quickly reported. My lord, if he keeps winning, the more fusion stones he earns, the more we lose. We might end up paying out the arena's entire annual earnings. Why panic? The arena's been open for thousands of years. We've seen it all. Nu Shiwu snorted. If he doesn't know when to stop, everything he's won will be taken back. You mean to send someone from the 1000 tier to deal with him? The referee asked cautiously. Strike the snake at its vital spot, make it a clean kill. Send someone from the 10,000 tier instead. No need for accidents, Nu Shiwu said calmly. My lord, those old guys from the 10,000 tier are expensive, the referee said hesitantly. Even so, it's better than this. Besides, they still owe the House of Fury some face. They won't ask too much. Nu Shiwu waved his hand and sat down nearby. Backstage in the waiting area, the disciples of the world's sovereign Empyrean sect stared in shock as Su Zimo dominated. Lin Jr. brother, Fong Xiang stammered. Junior brother Lin was really hiding his strength. Lu Ruffing narrowed his eyes and said, But he's a bit too flashy. The tallest tree in the forest catches the wind. I'm afraid the House of Fury won't let this slide. Should we tell him to stop while he's ahead? In Rong asked. How? Unless we go on stage, and right now the House of Fury likely won't send any more 100-tier opponents. Lu Ruffing shook his head. Let's wait and see. The arena fell into a brief silence again. Then the underground door opened. An elder Withered Bones walked out wearing a dark green robe. These young brats have been too wild lately, Withered Bones said coldly. I just killed one yesterday, and now here's another one looking to die. Well, what a coincidence. Su Zimo smiled. So you're with them? Withered Bones raised his eerie face to look at Su Zimo. You want to avenge your comrade, little brat? Revenge doesn't matter. But if you block my path to 100 wins, I won't hesitate to kill you, Su Zimo said. You do have reason to be arrogant, but you've picked the wrong opponent, Withered Bones sneered. He raised his head, and a ghostly blue skull rose in his eyes. A shockwave surged toward Su Zimo's mind. Su Zimo had the 9 Revolutions God Tower physique. Unless the 9 towers were broken, no soul attack could threaten him. Even without defending, this level of attack meant little to him. When the soul shock hit, Su Zimo stood calmly and unaffected. Not bad, Withered Bones chuckled, twisting his head 360 degrees. Then he raised both hands, and sharp white bones shot up from the ground. The bones pierced the solid arena, each one nearly a meter long and razor-sharp, gleaming coldly. They were densely packed, covering the entire stage. Su Zimo stepped into the air to avoid them, but surprisingly, they kept growing. Each bone stretched tens of meters, forming a massive cage that enclosed him. Withered Bones clenched his fist, and the bone cage began to contract. Little brat, there's always someone better. Shame you had to learn that too late. Withered Bones laughed. Sigh, how boring. I was expecting something new, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. He unsheathed his long blade. With one strike, boom, the bone cage shattered entirely. He then threw the blade toward Withered Bones. Bone shield. Withered Bones frowned slightly and waved his hand, summoning a bone shield in front of him. With another loud bang, the shield cracked from the center. In his stunned gaze, the blade pierced into his body. This? The referee beside the arena was alarmed. Don't panic. No one from the 10,000 tier is simple, Nu Shiwu said calmly. Withered Bones looked at the blade in his abdomen and pulled it out. Oddly, there was no blood. Can't underestimate you, Withered Bones said as he stood up. But now you've pissed me off. He tossed the blade aside and let out a furious roar. His skin and flesh began to peel off, and in just a moment he became a skeleton. The transformation was extreme. He went from a living man to a skeletal figure. Most disturbingly, 2 wings sprouted from his back. With his roar, the stage trembled as if something massive were about to emerge. Boom! The spirit force from all around gathered toward the arena. As a giant head emerged from the ground, the wide arena split apart. Activate the barrier and keep the spectators calm, Nu Shiwu ordered. The staff responded swiftly. A circular barrier enclosed the arena from the stands. With Withered Bones now fully transformed, the beast beneath the arena revealed itself. It was a centipede with 8 tentacles, specifically a white bone centipede. His body took up nearly half the arena. Its skeletal surface shimmered in 7 different colors. It's the 7 Venom Centipede, someone in the crowd shouted in surprise. Something's wrong. Why does the 7 Venom Centipede look like this? That's Withered Bones's Meridian Beast. He mutated it into this form, someone nearby explained. Chapter 672 Departure. Ancestor Withered Bones stood atop the 7 Venom Centipede, laughing loudly. Boy, my 7 Venom Centipede not only has tremendous attack power, but its entire body is laced with poison. How will you fight it? The centipede's beady eyes stared at Su Zimo. Its 8 massive limbs rose into the air, ready to crush him. Rumbling echoed in all directions. Su Zimo looked up, his long blade becoming a flash of light as it slashed toward the centipede. Though it was a casual strike, the blade aura it carried was terrifying. With a cracking sound, the long blade swept through, severing all 8 legs of the centipede. Despite the mutations, the centipede could feel no pain. With its legs severed, it collapsed to the ground. Withered Bones lost his balance atop the beast and nearly fell off. How can this be? He looked at the blade in Su Zimo's hand in shock, unsure whether the power came from the man or the weapon. Send my regards to Junior Brother Mu in the afterlife, Su Zimo said with a smile. His long blade fell again, the force of the strike suppressing half the sky. Withered Bones looked up and saw the overwhelming blade aura descending upon him. I surrender! I surrender! He shouted in a panic, unable to dodge. But it was too late. The blade aura crashed down, obliterating everything, including the centipede and Withered Bones himself. As the dust settled, silence fell over the arena. The audience even forgot to speak. Referee, not going to announce it? Su Zimo turned to the official and said with a faint smile. Oh yes. The referee quickly snapped out of it. This match, Lin Qiu is the winner. Feels like the arena is about to be turned upside down. A spectator muttered. No kidding. Who can stop him now? Someone else shook their head. Even Withered Bones was defeated. He's one of the strongest in the 10,000 tier. In the stands, the nobleman who had lent his sword narrowed his eyes, then smiled. The House of Fury will be having headaches now. Seeing even Withered Bones fall, the other competitors in the waiting area all withdrew. No one was willing to go up. No matter how many fusion stones they could win, it wasn't worth dying over. Everyone knew what kind of threat Withered Bones posed. Because of that, the arena couldn't even find a match for Su Zimo. My lord, what do we do? The referee turned to Nu Shiwu for instructions. What do the rules say? Nu Shiwu asked calmly. If no one dares fight, we must award him the invincible emblem and 1,000,000 fusion stones. The referee answered cautiously. Then tell him I'd like to speak with him privately. See how he responds. Nu Shiwu said as he stood and headed toward the hero tower. Su Zimo waited a bit on stage, then asked the referee, What, no more opponents? Now I see why no one has ever gotten 100 wins here. You're all just a bunch of cowards. Lord Lin, my master would like to speak with you privately. Would you be willing? The referee asked with a smile. Privately? What about the matter on the stage? Su Zimo asked. You can discuss that with my lord directly. But rest assured, the House of Fury's credibility is absolute, the referee replied. Lead the way, Su Zimo waved. As he walked off the stage, the crowd erupted in noise again, waiting for the final outcome. After all, it was rare for the arena to have someone so dominant that no one dared challenge them. There were even rumors that powerful figures like Withered Bones were secretly backed by the House of Fury. If someone went on a long winning streak, these figures would show up to put an end to it. That way, they wouldn't have to pay the 1,000,000 fusion stones and could use the invincible emblem as a marketing gimmick. The referee led Su Zimo toward the hero tower. It was well decorated, though to someone like Su Zimo who'd been to many places, it was nothing special. They stopped outside a private room on the 5th floor. Please, Lord Lin, the referee gestured politely. My master is waiting inside. I'll remain outside. Su Zimo opened the door and saw a spacious suite. The floor was carpeted, and a long table sat in the center, filled with fine food and wine. At one end of the table sat a middle-aged man in a red short robe. Seeing Su Zimo enter, the man stood with a smile and said, You must be Lord Lin, truly a heroic young man. And you are? Su Zimo asked. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Nu Shiwu, the person in charge of this arena, the man said. All right, what does Elder Nu want from me? Su Zimo asked. Where are you currently training, Lord Lin? Nu Shiwu asked with a smile. World Sovereign Empyrean Sect, Su Zimo answered. A disciple of the World Sovereign Empyrean Sect. No wonder. Nu Shiwu nodded, sounding both impressed and slightly regretful. You must be quite the talent within the sect. Is that all you wanted to say? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Please have a seat. Nu Shiwu gestured and personally poured some wine. He said, Though you are a disciple of the World Sovereign Empyrean Sect, it doesn't prevent you from also becoming a retainer of the House of Fury. You want me to work for you? Su Zimo chuckled. The World Sovereign Empyrean Sect is great, but it's full of geniuses. I imagine there's a lot of pressure, especially with the struggle for the position of Holy Sun, Nu Shiwu said. I can guarantee you abundant resources for cultivation, unlimited fusion stones, even large amounts of refined stones from the Misty Forest. He raised his cup and smiled. In short, as long as you remember, our House of Fury will always have your back. No need for all these games. I don't need cooperation. Su Zimo waved his hand. Unless your family submits to me, maybe then I'd consider. He stood up and added, I came here just to say, I don't care about the invincible emblem. Just prepare the 1,000,000 fusion stones. I'm leaving Fury City tomorrow. As Su Zimo turned to leave, showing no regard for Nu Sherwoo's face, the wine cup in Nu Sherwoo's hand shattered completely. Come in, Nu Sherwoo said in a low voice. The referee entered cautiously. My lord, is something wrong? Have the 1,000,000 fusion stones prepared and sent to him before tomorrow, Nu Sherwoo said coldly. Chapter 673, The Three of Sound. Did the talk fall through, my lord? The referee asked cautiously, then made a throat-slitting gesture. He's a disciple of the World Sovereign Empyrean sect. You plan to kill him inside the city? Nu Sherwoo said coldly. The World Sovereign Empyrean sect? The referee gasped and quickly replied, I wouldn't dare. Though the House of Fury ruled over Fury City as true overlords, in the vast southern region, they were just a drop in the ocean. The real giants were still the God sect and the two Empyrean sects. The heavens are high and the Emperor is far away. What of the World Sovereign Empyrean sect? Nu Sherwoo's eyes grew cold. We can't kill him in the city, but the Misty Forest is full of dangers. If someone dies there, who could be blamed? What do you mean, my lord? The referee asked. Don't ask what you shouldn't, Nu Sherwoo said indifferently. After leaving the Hero Tower, Su Zimo didn't return to the arena. He knew the House of Fury wouldn't go back on the fusion stone matter. The arena had existed for thousands of years. If they couldn't even honor this, who would still do business with them? When he returned to the inn, Lu Rufin and the others were already waiting on the first floor. It was now dusk. The sunset cast its glow across the sky, and autumn winds shook the trees, scattering falling leaves. When Su Zimo arrived, everyone looked at him in awe. Junior brother Lin, the more I look at you, the less I can figure you out, Louis said. We're not that close to begin with, Su Zimo replied with a laugh. If not for this mission to find the blood lizard, they likely would never have met. True, Yin Rong nodded from the side. But speaking of which, with junior brother Lin as our big gun, heading into the Misty Forest will be much safer. What about the arena? They're not going to try to weasel out of it, are they? Fang Xiang asked. That won't happen. They'll probably deliver it tomorrow, Su Zimo said. Good. We've ordered good wine and food to reward you. Everyone sat around the dining table on the first floor, chatting and laughing. Clearly, they were in good spirits. The shadow left by Mu Zhoubai and Huangfu Shenyue's deaths had slightly lifted. The current challenges had mostly been dealt with. If they could safely return from the Misty Forest, the sect would definitely reward them greatly. The arena moved fast. By nightfall, someone arrived at the inn and handed Su Zimo a storage ring. Inside were 1,000,000 fusion stones, likely several years' worth of the arena's profits. Su Zimo took out a few and examined them. They were crystal clear, containing a special kind of energy. Humans couldn't use fusion stones directly. Besides being fused with blood lizards, these stones were also food for the creatures of the Misty Forest. The night passed quietly. As the sky brightened the next morning, the group prepared to leave Fury City. Before leaving, Su Zimo planned to buy some maps. The most dangerous thing about the Misty Forest was losing one's way. The mist there was unusual and couldn't be dispersed. The deeper one went, the denser it became. But near the outer edges, the mist was thinner. After generations of exploration by the city's inhabitants, several useful maps had been created. There were 4 entrances to the forest, and each had its own map. Su Zimo thought for a moment and bought all 4 maps. Once everything was ready, the group left the city. The Misty Forest lay southeast of Fury City, with some distance between them. As they traveled, the sky began to grow overcast by afternoon. Autumn was a rainy season, and the cold wind carried a chill. The weather's turning, Fang Xiang said, looking at the darkening sky. Is it really okay to head into the forest in this weather? Should we wait a bit? Louis asked. As they spoke, rain began to fall. The autumn wind was cold, and so was the rain. The weather had shifted suddenly, and the raindrops grew faster and denser. We should deal with the trouble in front of us first, Su Zimo said with a smile. What trouble? Louis asked curiously. Just as she spoke, Three figures appeared on the road ahead. They were draped in black cloaks, wore bamboo hats, one carrying a long zither on his back, another with a white flute at his waist, and the third holding a bell. The three blended into the gloomy world, approaching like grim reapers with overwhelming pressure. "Looks like someone doesn't want us leaving so easily," Lu Rufin said calmly, holding her sword. "The House of Fury is really petty," Yin Rong said angrily. The three said nothing. Their hats hid their faces, showing no expression. They stopped in place. One began to shake the bell in his hand, sending out visible sound waves. Besides the piercing ringing in their ears, there were also the screams of women. Another crouched down, left leg over right, placing the zither on his lap. As soon as the strings sounded, the earth shook, the rain poured, and the whole world seemed to twist. The third, in his black robe, stood in the cold rain. His lips moved slightly, producing a deep, low flute sound. The flute echoed like thunder and formed a mist that surrounded Su Zimo and the others. The three figures gradually disappeared into the fog. "What is this?" Yin Rong asked gravely. "Soul attack," Lu Rufin replied. "Everyone back to back. Soul attacks are both dangerous and simple. The problem is, we don't know how their method works." "Junior brother Lin, hurry!" Lu Yi shouted when she saw Su Zimo standing still. "No worries. You all stay together. I can protect myself," Su Zimo said. As he finished speaking, a monstrous figure emerged from the fog. It stood dozens of meters tall, wearing only gray shorts on its lower half, bare-chested. Red marks covered its body, and its bright red hair spiked high above its head. With a roar, it lifted its foot and stomped toward the group. "Vast Sky Sword Force!" Lu Rufin shouted and slashed at the monster's leg. The sword aura passed right through the monster's body, vanishing into the mist. But the creature's foot landed solidly, kicking Lu Rufin away. She coughed up blood and passed out on the spot. The mist surged again, swallowing her whole. "Senior brother Lu," Yin Rong cried out. "Junior brother Lin, save him." "I'll think about saving you after you're all dead," Su Zimo said with a grin. Chapter 674, The Great Tonic Mist. Hearing Su Zimo's words, Lu Yi asked puzzled, "Junior brother Lin? What are you talking about? Who's your junior brother?" Su Zimo replied, "I think it'd be better if you all went down to accompany your senior sister Huangfu." "You?" Yin Rong gasped and immediately reacted. "You were the one who killed senior sister Huangfu. You can ask her yourself," Su Zimo said. As his voice fell inside the formation, the giant monster once again raised its foot to stomp down. Su Zimo chuckled and his figure disappeared into the mist. "He's gone," someone among the musicians in the mist exclaimed. "No rush. Kill his companions first, then we'll deal with him," another replied. Seeing this, Fang Xiang's eyes filled with despair. He stood in front with his spear and shouted, "Junior sisters, I'll hold them off. You two run back to the sect and tell Master everything." The spear shone brightly, but was ultimately crushed beneath the monster's foot. Seeing Fang Xiang fall, Lu Yi and Yin Rong, the only two remaining girls, were stunned in place. "Junior brother Lin will give you whatever you want. Please save us," Yin Rong cried out. Knowing they had no ability to resist, the two could only scream for help. Finally, when the monster's foot came down again, all around fell into silence. "Could that guy have run off?" someone murmured in the mist. "Probably just hiding," another voice answered. The mist began to disperse, and only the corpses of Lu Rufin and the others remained. The three musicians looked around cautiously and exchanged glances. "If he escaped, how do we explain it? The House of Fury paid us a lot for this." "Looking for me?" Just as the flute player spoke, a voice suddenly rang out behind him. Then came a squelch as a long blade pierced his abdomen. "When did you?" The flute player turned his head with difficulty. The other two immediately began shaking the bell and strumming the zither. "It's useless. Stop playing," Su Zimo said casually. Two loud explosions rang out. The zither strings snapped, The bell shattered. "What is this monster?" The two's eyes bulged as they shouted, "Run!" Their bodies darted off in different directions. "Pointless." Suzimo shook his head. With the heaven demon bow in hand, two whoosh sounds echoed. Two magic arrows shot out faster than the speed of sound, nailing them to trees in the misty forest. He turned to look at the corpses of the world's sovereign Empyrean sect disciples, shook his head, and said, "I didn't want to kill you, but I already got the fusion method. You're just not useful anymore." Suzimo clapped his hands and walked straight into the misty forest. From the outside, this vast forest exuded dampness and mystery, like an ancient giant lying in silence. Inside, the trees were all ancient. Even in the withering autumn season, they remained lush and vibrant. The forest was shrouded in a mysterious mist, rendering everything inside invisible. The unknown carried a faint fear. That was the initial feeling the misty forest gave off. Suzimo chose to enter from the southeastern entrance. He took out the map he'd prepared earlier. The map was very detailed, helping him reach the swamplands. Beyond the swamplands, however, the map had very little detail, as that place was near certain death. Thousands of years ago, one morning World Paragon Fury entered and never came out again. After stepping in, Suzimo immediately felt a chill in the surrounding air. The air was thick with moisture. The mist engulfed everything, obscuring both sight and path. To Suzimo's senses, this mist felt more like a kind of energy, a very special energy, not ordinary fog. Following the map, he pressed on. There were no cardinal directions here. It felt like he was the only person left in a vast, white world. After walking for a long while, Suzimo noticed his internal spirit force was circulating sluggishly. It seemed the mist, once inhaled, clung to his meridians like a membrane, slowing his energy flow. But then he discovered something strange. Though he couldn't absorb spiritual energy normally, when he activated the strange meridian technique, he could easily absorb the mist. Even more surprising, the fifth strange meridian, the root chakra, which had long been blocked, began to operate. Suzimo sat cross-legged and calmly absorbed the mist. After a long while, a muffled bang came from within him as the fifth meridian was opened. With the root chakra activated, his spirit force began circulating at more than twice the speed. More importantly, after reaching the godly monarch realm but before stepping into the immortal path, Suzimo had thought he'd reached the limit of the human body. But judging from this, the human body held endless possibilities. He'd only glimpsed a small part. 5 strange meridians made a single minor cycle, just opening that had already benefited him greatly. What if all 36 were activated? Suzimo wasn't in a hurry to fuse with the blood lizard. He sat where he was and continued absorbing the mist. Yet the more he absorbed, the more he realized that the amount needed to open each meridian was immense. The mist in the outer area wasn't enough anymore. Just as he was about to continue deeper, a loud boom sounded as a huge shadow descended from above. He looked up and saw a massive mountain falling down to crush him. Thunderous roars echoed above, but Suzimo didn't flinch. He raised his fist and smashed it upward. With a boom, the mountain shattered into countless pieces of falling debris. A strange hissing sound came from nearby. He saw a 1-meter-tall rock creature flailing its limbs angrily. Its head was irregularly shaped, but it had 2 arms and 2 legs, just like a human. When it had been curled up, it looked like an ordinary rock, and Suzimo hadn't paid it any attention. Now that it stood, its uniqueness was clear. Apparently frustrated that its sneak attack failed, the rock creature shouted wildly. A spirit beast? Suzimo looked at it with interest. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed the stone creature. Seeing escape was impossible. The creature retracted its limbs and turned back into an ordinary rock. Chapter 675, The Empyrean Sect Questions. Suzimo found it interesting. He couldn't feel any sign of life from the stone monster, but it was undeniably a living being. He punched down, completely shattering the stone block. After the stone shattered, it left behind a transparent crystal. "This must be a spirit stone," Suzimo murmured. The residents of Fury City used fusion stones as bait to lure out the spirit creatures, killing them to obtain absorbable spirit stones. However, from the structure of these spirit stones, Suzumo sensed a power identical to that of the mist he had been absorbing. He had a faint theory. Perhaps these spirit stones were formed from the condensation of the mist itself. For some unknown reason, humans couldn't directly absorb the mist, only these spirit stones. This place is getting more and more interesting, Suzumo said, observing the misty swamp forest. Outside, heavy rain poured down. But once it entered the mist forest, the rain was completely blocked by the dense foliage overhead, with only occasional drops falling through. Suzumo intended to cultivate his strange Meridian Sutra here before fusing with the blood lizard. According to the map, the further he walked, the more intrigued he became. Technically speaking, there were no demonic beasts in this forest. But most of the plants, flowers, trees, even stones had gained sentience. Along the way, Suzumo had already encountered dozens of spirit creatures. But none of them could harm him. Guided by the map, Suzumo made his way steadily to the edge of the swamp region. Beyond this point, the map ended. Aside from the disorienting white mist, the hidden dangers of the swampy ground beneath one's feet made every step uncertain. It was said that long ago, the white mist wasn't this dense. But ever since the disappearance of World Paragon Fury, the mist had grown thicker by the day. Suzumo looked up and took a deep breath. To him, the white mist in the air was a great tonic. A single breath made his entire body feel refreshed and energized. The difference between the swamp and the outer mist forest was stark. Here, the soil had turned a volcanic ash color. Clusters of purple-red roses bloomed across the ground in a show of beauty and competition. Stepping on them felt soft and bouncy, making it impossible to tell solid ground from swamp. After entering the swamp, Suzumo didn't go far before sitting down to continue absorbing the mist. Meanwhile, back at the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect, ever since the sect sealed its gates and its disciples went into hiding, Lin Beisheng and Lin Jumi quickly eradicated the remaining opposition forces. They promoted loyal elders within their factions to secure power and gave generous benefits to disciples to stabilize morale. As the sect began to run smoothly, Lin Beisheng planned to announce the reopening of the sect gates. This new Nine Heavens Imperial Sect would be completely distinct from the past, and Lin Beisheng specifically organized a grand sect assembly. The thick autumn air was slowly giving way to clear skies. Though the weather was a bit gloomy, the sect itself was bustling with festivity. The assembly was held atop the Grand Heaven Mountain. Lin Beisheng wore a wide red robe and walked confidently to the summit. Looking out, thousands of Nine Heavens disciples stood packed together at the foot of the mountain, each with chins raised and spirits high. I believe everyone is already aware of the major events our Nine Heavens Imperial Sect has experienced recently. I won't repeat them here. I just hope that from now on, there will be no distinction within Nine Heavens. We are one sect. We should help one another and grow together. Lin Beisheng continued, "It is the greatest fortune of my life to become the sect master of the Nine Heavens Imperial Sect. Apart from announcing that our sect is entering a new chapter, I also hope you will all perform well. Soon we will elect a new Imperial Son, a disciple who truly represents Nine Heavens." "Nine Heavens Unyielding," Lin Beisheng shouted. The thousands of disciples raised their fists in unison, shouting, "Nine Heavens Unyielding! Nine Heavens Unyielding!" Their voices formed a chorus that shook the sky and stirred the soul. What a loud slogan! Is this chant meant for my Nine Heavens Empyrean sect? A sudden voice called from afar. The voice wasn't loud, just one person speaking, yet it managed to suppress the roar of thousands. As the voice landed, the entire Grand Heaven Mountain fell into silence. Everyone turned to look, only to see a massive beast flying in from the distance. The beast was entirely fiery red, resembling a phoenix, with 9 tails burning with fierce flames. Its aura had reached the peak of the Fusion Heaven realm. Even more intimidating was the fact that 2 figures stood atop it. One was a middle-aged man, the other a young man. The middle-aged man wore a cyan robe embroidered with clouds and the characters 9 heavens, stitched grandly on the back. He had an imposing presence, his face stern, someone who exuded authority without speaking. The young man beside him had handsome features and wore a blue robe with an air of timeless tranquility. Especially his eyes, deep and enigmatic, made it hard to even look directly at him. A steady and vast aura radiated from the young man, casting a hush over the skies. People from the main sect have arrived, someone whispered among the disciples. What nonsense are you spouting? Didn't the sect master say from now on, there's no distinction between main and branch sects? But we killed someone from the main sect. They're here to seek justice. If they show no mercy, what do we have to resist them with? As the Fire Phoenix approached, Lin Beixing didn't recognize the young man. But he was all too familiar with the middle-aged man. Along with Zhang Tianlin of the World Sovereign Empyrean sect, he was known as one of the twin Grand Empyreans, the leader of the current 9 Heavens Empyrean sect, North Sky. Master North Sky, long time no see. Lin Beixing stepped forward and greeted calmly. Lin Beixing, shouldn't you give me an explanation for the Dao Mountain incident? North Sky asked with authority. Master North Sky, arriving and demanding answers right away. Don't you think that's inappropriate? Lin Beixing replied evenly. I believe Elder Mu should have already explained the situation to you. Killing an Empyrean sect elder and attempting to upend the entire sect's structure. Lin Beixing, you've got some nerve. North Sky scoffed coldly. He barked, bring out your son. I want to confront him directly. In front of my son, even Fusion Heaven is like an ant. Are you really worthy, Master North Sky? Lin Beixing responded coolly. If you had come as a guest, I would have welcomed you as one. But if you're here to question us, you might as well turn back. Then I wonder, am I worthy? At that moment, the blue-robed young man beside him suddenly spoke. Chapter 676, Grand Empyrean Supreme Void. As the young man in the blue robe spoke, Lin Beixing finally noticed him. This young man wore a flowing cloud-blue robe and had an extraordinary temperament. But at first, due to his youthful appearance, Lin Beixing had naturally overlooked him. And you are? Lin Beixing asked cautiously. I am Grand Empyrean Supreme Void, the blue-robed youth replied. Beneath him, the 9 Phoenix Mount let out a sharp screech. Flames of bright red burned around it, and the piercing cry shook the entire sky. Grand Empyrean Supreme Void. Lin Beixing almost bit his own tongue. The elders and disciples below were trembling, unable to utter a word. In that instant, Lin Beixing felt his scalp tingle, as if he had been locked onto by some terrifying existence. He should have realized sooner. Anyone who could have a peak Fusion Heaven level Fire Phoenix as a mount couldn't be an ordinary powerhouse. Not even North Sky could pull that off. The only explanation was that the Fire Phoenix was the mount of a Grand Empyrean. The title of Grand Empyrean alone could shatter anyone's pride. In this era where godly monarchs were nearly extinct and stepping onto the immortal Dao Bridge was nearly impossible, Grand Empyreans were the ultimate pinnacle. A sect with a Grand Empyrean could stand unrivaled in the mortal realm. Grand Empyreans were called such because they stood at the top of the Grand Dao, able to connect to heaven, penetrate earth, and were unimaginably powerful. Lin Beixing, sect master of the 9 Heavens sect, greets Grand Empyrean Supreme Void. Lin Beixing said, cupping his hands and bowing slightly. I did not come here today to use power to suppress others. As a Grand Empyrean, I have no need to quarrel with juniors. Lest people say I am narrow-minded, Grand Empyrean Supreme Void said. I've come only to seek fairness. Black is black, white is white. Black and white cannot be reversed. Wise words, Grand Empyrean. Lin Beixing nodded in agreement. Let me ask you, when your 9 Heavens Imperial sect was in decline, was it not our 9 Heavens Empyrean sect that supported you and established the 9 Heavens Grand Gathering to give your young generation a brighter future? Grand Empyrean Supreme Void asked. The 9 Heavens Empyrean sect did help us. But wasn't the 9 Heavens Grand Gathering not just for us? Lin Beixing replied. What do you mean by that? North Sky, standing nearby, frowned. If the Grand Empyrean wishes to hear the truth, then I don't mind tearing off the pretense today. We all know it deep down, Lin Beixing said after a moment of thought. He continued, the Nine Heavens Empyrean sect's assistance to our Nine Heavens sect is real. But the young disciples are the future of any sect. You created the Nine Heavens Grand Gathering and took all the young talents into your Nine Heavens Empyrean sect, making them your own. This setup makes it feel like our sect exists only to raise and supply you with fresh blood. There are even distinctions between main and branch sects, with the main sect looking down on others. You've also secretly sown discord among the 9 mountains within our sect, so we check and restrain each other, just to serve your purposes. Isn't that so? Nonsense. North Sky above shouted coldly. Lin Beixing, do you have any proof for these claims? I have no proof, but just as Grand Empyrean said, black is black, white is white. Cannot be twisted. Everyone knows what's going on, Lin Beixing said. I don't wish to argue about the past anymore. Now that the Nine Heavens sect stands on its own, we no longer wish to be tied to your superior main sect. Must you force us? You may be eloquent, but surely you cannot deny that you killed Elder Qin Hanxing of our Nine Heavens Empyrean sect? Grand Empyrean Supreme Void said, bring out your son. I want to ask him face to face where he found the courage. Qiu'er has already left. He is no longer in the sect. Lin Beixing shook his head and said, a father is responsible for a son's failure in discipline. I won't bully the young with my power, Grand Empyrean Supreme Void said. I'll spare your Nine Heavens sect, but you, come with me to the Nine Heavens Empyrean sect. When your son comes, he can exchange himself for you. Hearing Grand Empyrean's words, Lin Beixing's eyes narrowed. Though Grand Empyrean said he would only take him, the truth was clear. Without Lin Beixing at its core, the newly independent Nine Heavens sect might collapse. The disciples had weak loyalty, and if the Nine Heavens Empyrean sect stirred things behind the scenes, the sect could fall apart quickly. And what if I refuse? Lin Beixing looked at Grand Empyrean Supreme Void and said calmly. With the pretense already torn off, there was no point in holding back. This is not something you get to decide, Grand Empyrean Supreme Void replied. In this vast southern region, other than the eternal godly monarch, who among you could stop me? Has the honorable Grand Empyrean never wondered what gave us the courage to kill Qin Hanxing and go independent? Lin Beixing asked. Oh, the Grand Empyrean Supreme Void looked at Lin Beixing with curiosity. Then I'd really like to know, where does your courage come from? At this moment, even Lin Beixing himself wasn't sure whether the guardian beast left by Su Zimo could resist a Grand Empyrean. But there was no turning back now. If Grand Empyrean truly intends to use power to suppress us, then for the future of the sect, I, Lin Beixing, will face death without fear. I'll try everything I can, Lin Beixing shouted. I offer you some advice, turn back now. The rise of the Nine Heavens sect is unstoppable. If we meet again, we may still call each other fellow Taoists. Arrogant, Grand Empyrean Supreme Void snorted coldly. Do you know what happens to those who offend a Grand Empyrean? As he finished speaking, the fire phoenix let out a sky-shaking cry, and raging flames burst from its sharp beak. Seeing this, the disciples at the base of Grand Heaven Mountain all turned pale. It was too late to dodge. Lin Beixing's eyes widened in desperation. He threw out the beast command token and shouted, "Where is the guardian beast of the sect?" As the token was thrown, there was a loud boom. The spirit force within it exploded outward. The entire sky was swept up in a storm of spirit force. In the center of the peaks surrounding Grand Heaven Mountain, a pair of crimson eyes slowly opened. A thick beastly aura covered the entire Nine Heavens sect. Purple mist rolled in from the east for 90,000 miles. The ground trembled, as if a terrifying beast was awakening. Thunderous explosions mixed with deep, low beastly roars echoed across the sky. The disciples of Grand Heaven Mountain trembled violently, unable to even lift their heads under the pressure of the beastly aura. Most visibly affected was the fire phoenix in the sky. It screeched in unease, flames covering half the heavens. But looking closely, one could see the fire phoenix was trembling uncontrollably, as though it had encountered a terrifying existence. Ancestor! North Sky looked at Grand Empyrean Supreme Void in confusion. Do not fear. Grand Empyrean Supreme Void gently patted the fire phoenix's head, trying to calm it down. Then he looked deeply into the distance and said, for something to scare a peak fusion heaven-level fire phoenix like this, I fear. Before he could finish, North Sky's expression changed. Impossible. How could the Nine Heavens sect possess such power? Chapter 677 Supreme Godly Monarch. The Grand Empyrean said nothing, his eyes fixed intently on the direction of Tao Mountain. The aura emanating from that place made even him feel a chill. As the spirit force of heaven and earth reversed and the tremors of the earth gradually calmed, a giant beast lifted the entire Tao Mountain into the air. Below the peak, mist shrouded the scene, making it impossible to see inside. A voice came from within. Why have you summoned me? God Beast, our sect is in danger. Please, lend us your aid, Lin Beixing quickly said. He could feel the immense pressure of the God Beast's aura and lowered himself in supplication without hesitation. This was the only hope left for the Nine Heavens sect, and he had no other choice now. Hearing Lin Beixing's words, the God Beast chimera beneath Tao Mountain slowly turned its head, its gaze piercing through layers of mist to lock onto the Grand Empyrean in the sky. It shouted, leave, just a single word, yet it thundered like an explosion, bursting eardrums, splitting the air, and echoing in the sky long after it was spoken. I'm familiar with all the powers in the southern region. May I ask your name? The Grand Empyrean's aura surged as he stepped off the fire phoenix into the air, facing Tao Mountain. The southern region means nothing. Even the eternal lands are but a drop in the infinite void. You are not qualified to know my name, Chimera replied indifferently. As it finished speaking, a massive beast claw emerged from the mist, tearing through the void with destructive power. The Grand Empyrean frowned and summoned a whisk. The white whisk swept across the air, forming a giant spiritual hand that reached out to block the beast claw. With a loud boom, the claw, black and yellow, its talons dozens of centimeters long, swept across the sky and shredded the end of the whisk into pieces. The Grand Empyrean's expression changed, and he was sent flying backward. He retreated over 10 meters before stabilizing himself, his face solemn as he stared toward the base of Tao Mountain. If you force me to strike again, no matter where you flee, I will kill you today and destroy your Empyrean sect. Chimera's voice rumbled from beneath the peak. The Grand Empyrean's face grew even more grim. Since becoming a Grand Empyrean, it had been countless years since anyone dared speak to him like this. It was no exaggeration to say that in the southern region, he was one of the people at the very apex. My apologies for disturbing you, Senior. The Grand Empyrean finally lowered his posture with a slight bow. He could tell he was no match for this beast. At their level, clashing over pride was no longer worth it. However, the appearance of this god beast might completely reshape the balance of power in the southern region. Why had the long-fated Nine Heavens sect gained such a beast? There were many things worth investigating here. Until the situation became clearer, the Grand Empyrean decided to wait and watch, not act rashly. He believed other sects in the southern region would also be very interested in this development. If I am disturbed again, no matter who it is, I will kill them, Chimera said in a deep voice. As his voice faded, the stormy spirit force in the sky slowly calmed. Chimera lay back beneath the peak, and Tao Mountain settled down again. The surrounding mist dispersed, and peace returned. This god beast. The disciples below broke into noisy whispers. I never knew our Nine Heavens sect had a god beast protector, stronger than a Grand Empyrean. Who would we fear now? Seems like our new sect master was hiding something big. Hearing the growing noise, Lin Beixing frowned slightly and gestured downward. Silence. The scene fell quiet instantly. The autumn wind circled in the sky, then returned. In the sky, North Sky chuckled and said, Sect Master Lin. This has all been a misunderstanding. Qin Hanxing deserved his fate. Our two sects share the same roots. No need for this kind of discord. Old fox! Lin Beixing cursed inwardly. The man's change in attitude was swift and shameless. The world moves for benefit. Everyone fights for gain. A moment ago he wanted him dead. Now it was just a misunderstanding. But Lin Beixing didn't press too hard. The god beast only guarded the sect and wouldn't intervene in other matters. Elder Qin's death, Sect Master Bei. I hope you won't take it too personally, Lin Beixing replied with a smile. Of course not. Our two sects should maintain close contact in the future, North Sky said. Lin Beixing nodded slightly. Today we're holding a full sect assembly, so forgive me for not being a better host. Sect Master North Sky, please make yourself at home. In that case, I'll take my leave. Another day, Brother Lin, will meet again, North Sky said with a smile. Seeing Lin Beixing say no more, North Sky and the Grand Empyrean mounted the Fire Phoenix and left. It wasn't until they had flown out of the Nine Heavens sect that North Sky's face turned dark. When has our Empyrean sect ever suffered such humiliation? That bastard Lin is just bullying us with that beast. The Nine Heavens sect can't be touched right now, the Grand Empyrean said calmly. Ancestor, did you see his attitude? North Sky said angrily. He's just relying on a beast. You're a Grand Empyrean, and he didn't show you the slightest respect. We've already torn off the facade. What respect is left to talk about? The Grand Empyrean replied. But the appearance of this god beast is too strange. We must investigate thoroughly. So what do we do next? North Sky asked. Do you think the Nine Heavens sect might try to retaliate? Unless that beast acts, there's still a loose collection of factions. They won't amount to much, the Grand Empyrean said. Spread the word. I believe the World Sovereign Empyrean sect and the Eternal God sect will be more nervous than us. That's all we can do for now. It's a shame, though. Without the Nine Heavens sect, our strength will weaken. North Sky sighed. Then he turned his sharp gaze toward the Grand Empyrean. Ancestor, your path to godly monarch? Looking into the far distance, he sighed. I don't even know if I'll reach that supreme realm in this lifetime. At the peak of Grand Heaven Mountain, a cold wind blew. Lin Beixing stood there quietly alone. Along the mountain path, Lin Jumi walked up with a cheerful smile. Beixing, you have a fine son. Father, do you really think he's my son? Lin Beixing asked. Qiu'er grew up with us. You know what kind of person he is better than anyone. Life is about knowing when not to know too much. Being too clear about things can do more harm than good, Lin Jumi said, shaking his head slightly. I understand. Lin Beixing nodded. The Nine Mountains are united. The sect is about to set sail again. In the new era that we leave for future generations, I'm planning to put you in the first chapter, as the first sect master of the new Nine Heavens, Lin Jumi said. No need. Write it the way I told you. Lin Beixing shook his head. That day, a man swept across the Nine Heavens, suppressed the Empyrean sect, and then stepped into the void to seek a higher realm of the Tao. He will be recorded as the first true godly monarch of the Nine Heavens sect. His title, Supreme. Chapter 678, Particle World of the Lizard Race. Supreme Godly Monarch, Lin Jumi muttered to himself, then said, You think Qiu'er is a godly monarch? That shouldn't be possible. Our southern region hasn't produced a godly monarch in tens of thousands of years. Then how do you explain that god beast? Lin Beixing asked. A god beast that could make a Grand Empyrean back down. How could it be following Qiu'er's commands? Well, Lin Jumi fell silent for a moment, lost in thought. No matter what, this doesn't concern us much anymore. Qiu'er has his own path to follow. Perhaps his destination is the Immortal Bridge, Lin Beixing said. We just need to manage the Nine Heavens sect of today. Record everything truthfully in the Epic Chronicle, and let future generations judge for themselves. Hearing this, Lin Jumi gave a small nod, accepting it. In the swamplands, Su Zimo awoke from his cultivation. As the saying goes, Time is forgotten in the mountains. Years pass in an instant when cultivating. He had spent an entire month absorbing the mist, finally slowing down after breaking through another meridian. The results of this month's cultivation were significant. The 10th extraordinary meridian, the second cycle, the sacral chakra, had been opened. The spirit force within his body now flowed like a mighty ocean instead of a mere river, surging endlessly and continuously. His body had become even more refined and powerful. However, the further he progressed with the strange meridians, the more mist he needed. Su Zimo decided to find the source of this mist, thinking it would benefit his cultivation greatly. The mist in the swamp lands merged with the air, and sharp cries echoed from deep within the forest. Su Zimo stood up and walked deeper into the marsh. After about 10 minutes, the ground beneath his feet suddenly gave way, and he fell without warning into a marsh pit. The mist obscured everything, and the surrounding mud pulled at him with suction force, trying to swallow him whole. A pungent, foul smell assaulted his nose. The mud quickly rose to his waist. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. Su Zimo tested the situation. Even a fusion heaven cultivator might not escape from this kind of suction. What was worse was that anyone who entered the marsh and inhaled the mist wouldn't be able to integrate it as he did with his strange meridians. When the mist clung to the meridians over time, it would block the flow of spirit force entirely. Eventually, even a fusion heaven cultivator would become no different from an ordinary person. This was why the swamplands were considered forbidden ground. The Grand Empyreans couldn't see through the mist and would get lost, and the deadly marshes would stop 90% of intruders. Moreover, above the marsh was a barrier-like force that prevented people from flying through the air. Despite all the danger, Su Zimo's godly monarch realm made him quite safe here. He pulled himself out of the marsh, looking ahead into the endless white mist. Closing his eyes slightly, he released his spiritual sense. With his god soul, he could detect abnormalities within several kilometers, an ability gained after advancing to godly monarch and igniting the god flame. Through this sense, Su Zimo found something odd. This was supposed to be the habitat of the lizard race. No matter the species, there should be some sign of them. But in his perception, not a single living thing could be found. Using his divine sense to avoid more marsh pits, Su Zimo kept walking forward. The rain eventually cleared. Even the downpour seemed tired and stopped around dusk. The climate in the marsh grew more humid and cold. The mist remained, thick and white, obscuring the darkness. Su Zimo had walked for half a day and still hadn't seen any living creature. This doesn't make sense, he frowned slightly. He stopped under a large old tree, sat on a branch, and extended his spiritual awareness. Time passed slowly, and the night grew darker. Until midnight, when a disturbance deep within the marsh woke Su Zimo. His eyes snapped open. In the next instant, a faint afterimage remained on the branch while he appeared several hundred meters away. There, in a patch of blooming wisteria, a girl in a green robe was cautiously picking flowers. Looking closely, her pupils were green, and her ears were triangular like a cat's. As Su Zimo appeared behind her, the green-robed girl sensed him instantly. Frightened, she cried out, dropped her basket, and instantly opened a spatial gate in front of her and stepped through. A particle world? Su Zimo murmured in surprise. Seeing the gate about to close, he waved his right hand. With the power of creation, he locked the entrance. After quickly stepping inside, the space rippled before returning to calm. His vision gradually became clearer. Su Zimo landed on solid ground. Looking around, he found himself on a plain, surrounded by fruit orchards. There were green grapes, yellow plums, purple fire fruit, all decent varieties. Up ahead, wisps of smoke rose into the air. A village could be vaguely seen in the distance. At that moment, Su Zimo understood. No wonder he couldn't find the lizard race. They lived in a particle world. Only occasionally did they venture into the outside world. If the entrance to the particle world wasn't open, even he wouldn't have found it. According to the fusion technique manual left by the World Sovereign Empyrean sect, the lizard race weren't ordinary lizards. From birth, they could take human form, but their dream had always been to become dragons. Su Zimo walked toward the village along a path paved with broken stones. Before long, several women emerged from the fruit orchards on either side. They had well-maintained skin and also wore green robes, with baskets hanging from their arms. They too had folded triangular ears. Laughing and chatting, they walked toward him. At first, they looked puzzled when they saw Su Zimo. After sizing him up, their expressions changed slightly. "Who are you?" the leading woman asked cautiously. "I came to explore the swamplands and accidentally got lost and ended up here," Su Zimo replied with a smile. "I was hoping to ask for directions." "You're not one of us, you're not from the lizard race," another woman said after looking him over. "You're human, aren't you?" Chapter 679, A World Ruled by the Black Dragon. "Human?" Another woman nearby responded to the word with a strange expression and said, "Thousands of years ago. It's been so long since someone came here again." "You mean?" One of the women behind her paused in thought and then seemed to realize something, her expression also turning strange. "What is it?" Su Zimo asked curiously. He was also thinking about whether he should kill them and use them to fuse the first stage of the fire lizard. But the fire lizard required century-old green lizards and red lizards. Putting aside whether these women met the requirements, they all seemed to be green lizards and showed no signs of being fire lizards. He decided to wait and observe. After understanding this particle world, it wouldn't be too late to act. The women looked at Su Zimo with a hint of pity and said, "Now that you're here, you can't leave." "Why not?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. "Don't ask that yet. Just answer me this, do you want to live or die?" One of the women said. "What are you trying to say?" Su Zimo replied, "Of course I want to live. Consider yourself lucky you ran into us. If you'd run into those guys from the Black Dragon Tower, you'd already be torn to pieces." One of the women said. "I really don't understand what you're talking about." Su Zimo shook his head and replied, "That's normal. I'll explain it to you later," the woman said. "I'm called Green Yun, but you can call me Sister Yun. If you trust me, hide here for now. I'll come back for you later tonight and bring you to the village." "All right." Su Zimo nodded and agreed readily. "You're not even going to ask why we're helping you?" Green Yun asked, looking at Su Zimo. "No need to ask. I trust you," Su Zimo said seriously, nodding. "Interesting. You're much easier to fool than that idiot from a few thousand years ago." Green Yun laughed. "Just wait here, and no matter who shows up, don't let yourself be seen, especially by anyone in a black robe." Su Zimo nodded as the group of women smiled and walked off toward the village. A force in the sky prevented flight in this particle world. While it posed no problem for Su Zimo if he flew, it would definitely draw attention. He wasn't in a rush. He found a spot in the orchard, leaned against a tree and rested, waiting for the women to come back at night. As for his cultivation in the heaven-shattering God scripture, Su Zimo had already started condensing power vortexes. Through intermittent practice, he had formed 20 of them. It had become increasingly difficult to form more, but now that he had opened 10 strange meridians, his body had entered a new realm, allowing him to condense even more force spirals. He continued cultivating until nightfall. Then, he felt someone pat his shoulder, waking him from his meditative state. "You're really something. You can sleep even here," Green Yun said in surprise. She pointed to the girl who came with her and said, "This is my younger sister, Green Yun. What's your name?" "Su Zimo," he replied with a smile. "Come on, let's get back to the village while it's dark," Green Yun said. "I'll explain everything once we're there." Su Zimo nodded slightly. Once the three of them exited the orchard, Su Zimo saw 2 handcarts waiting outside. Each cart was piled high with wisteria flowers. "What's this?" he asked curiously. "You'll lie down in one of the carts, and we'll cover you with flowers. No matter what you hear later, don't make a sound," Green Yun reminded him. Su Zimo nodded, lay down inside the cart, and let the wisteria flowers cover him completely. Then, Green Yun and her sister casually pushed the cart toward the village while chatting. The journey was relatively smooth. After about 10 minutes, Su Zimo felt the cart come to a stop. "It's late, get back home. The curfew's about to start," a harsh voice barked. "Got it. We picked some wisteria flowers to trade for food tomorrow," Green Yun quickly replied. "Filthy commoners. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been exiled to this godforsaken place. You better behave. If I'm in a bad mood one day, you'll regret it." "Yes, yes." Green Yun and her sister nodded repeatedly and pushed the cart into the village. The cart seemed to enter a small courtyard. After a few turns and twists, the wisteria flowers were finally removed. "Come out," Green Yun said with a smile. Su Zimo sat up and found himself in what looked like an underground chamber. The lighting was dim, and a dozen or so people in green clothes, men and women, stood nearby. "What is this place?" he asked curiously. "This is our secret refuge. Stay here for now. If you're found above ground, we'll all be in trouble," Green Yun explained. An elderly, bald man walked over nervously. He said, "Human, I'm the village chief. Just call me Chief Ing." "Now, can you explain things to me?" Su Zimo asked, nodding. "This particle world has been home to our lizard race for generations. If you want to leave, you'll need a black dragon token. There's no other way," Chief Ing said. "If you want to know more, ask Green Yun. I'm only here to warn you. If the black dragon guards catch you, don't give us away." With that, the old man left. The others around looked at Su Zimo with curiosity, seemingly wanting to ask questions, but Green Yun and her sister waved them off. Once everyone had left, Green Yun smiled and looked at Su Zimo. "Ask whatever you want to know. I know about your lizard race. Aren't there 4 types of lizards? Why have I only seen green lizards so far?" Su Zimo asked. "This particle world might not compare to the eternal lands, but it's still vast. Each type of lizard has its own territory. Without permission from the Black Dragon Guards, no one is allowed to cross borders," Green Yun said. "What are the Black Dragon Guards?" Su Zimo asked. "Our lizard race has always revered the dragon god. Our ultimate goal is to become dragons, and we've pursued that dream for countless years," Green Yun explained after thinking for a moment. "Thousands of years ago, our ancestors were deceived and allowed an evil black dragon into our particle world. Since then, the black dragon has ruled this realm. The Black Dragon Tower and its Black Dragon Guards were formed to serve it." "One last question. Why did you save me?" Su Zimo asked with interest. "Because we want you to help us rescue someone," Green Yun said. "Who?" "My sister, Green Qing," Green Yun answered honestly. "I can't even protect myself right now. How could I rescue anyone else?" Su Zimo laughed. Chapter 680, The Wrathful Lord. "When I said rescue, I didn't mean with strength. I meant by telling a well-intentioned lie," said Green Yun. "What do you mean?" Su Zimo asked in confusion. "I'll tell you a story. Thousands of years ago, after the Black Dragon took control of this world, our lizard race lost all freedom. We've been trapped ever since, living like frogs at the bottom of a well in these small villages, yearning for the vast world beyond. A few thousand years ago, a human accidentally entered our particle world. We were curious about this outsider and secretly let him stay in our village. He was very interesting, well-traveled, and knowledgeable. He often told us stories about fascinating places and things in the outside world. After some time, he and one of the village women fell in love. He wanted to take her to the world outside to see all the wonders he'd told her about. But without the Black Dragon's permission, no one could leave this place. So, the man set out on a path to slay the dragon. Green Yun paused to take a deep breath before continuing. Unfortunately, the Black Dragon was too powerful. The man was no match and returned gravely injured every time. But he had a trick. He knew how to break through the barrier of this particle world and escape to the outside, where the Black Dragon wouldn't dare pursue him. So, the battle went on for hundreds of years. The man would return now and then to challenge the Black Dragon, only to flee again when badly wounded. Until one day 1,000 years ago, he went to challenge the Black Dragon once more and never returned. The woman, waiting in vain, locked herself away. She cried every day and night, praying for his return. The woman you're talking about is your sister, Green Qing? Su Zimo asked. Yes, that man called himself the Wrathful Lord. I don't know if you've heard of him, Green Yun said. The Wrathful Lord, Su Zimo said with a curious smile. Now this is interesting. So how do you want me to help? My sister is the way she is because of the Wrathful Lord's death, Green Yun said. I want you to pretend to be his messenger. Tell her that he's not dead, just seriously injured and recovering. That's it. Su Zimo chuckled. Yes, after all, you're both human, so she's more likely to believe you. Green Yun nodded. All right, since you saved me, Su Zimo said with a nod. No time to waste. While it's still dark, let's go find her, Green Yun said immediately. If we wait until morning, we might get caught. Su Zimo nodded and followed Green Yun out of the underground chamber and into the courtyard. The courtyard looked dilapidated. Large ceramic jars were placed around the yard. A strong floral scent drifted out. When Su Zimo looked closer, he saw they were filled with nectar made from wisteria flowers. What's all this for? Su Zimo asked. The black dragon loves nectar, controls all our food. Only by collecting nectar can we exchange it with the black dragon guards for food, Green Yun said helplessly. That's pitiful, Su Zimo said. Didn't you ever think of resisting? We're used to it, Green Yun replied. And besides, with what? Even if we used the strength of our entire race, we couldn't defeat it. As they spoke, the two walked out of the yard and into the village streets. The sky outside was completely dark. Red lanterns hung along the roadside, casting faint light onto the streets. Green Yun led Su Zimo carefully along the shadows of the roadside. After walking a while, they heard footsteps approaching from around a street corner. Get down! Green Yun quickly pulled Su Zimo into the nearby grass. A group of soldiers in green armor passed by, chatting and laughing as they patrolled the street. Once they were gone, Green Yun sighed in relief and led Su Zimo down another street. Those were the Black Dragon Guards? Su Zimo asked. They wish. The Black Dragon Guards are the Black Dragon's personal soldiers, directly related by blood. They guard the various regions of this particle world. There aren't many of them, so each village only has 2 or 3, Green Yun said angrily. Those green-armored soldiers are actually from our Green Lizard tribe. The Black Dragon made them promises, and they joined forces to suppress us. That's one of the main reasons we've failed to resist, just a bunch of traitors. Understandable, Su Zimo smiled. Either be oppressed by the Black Dragon, or join it and oppress others. That's human nature. As they spoke, they arrived at a courtyard. It looked like it hadn't been inhabited in a long time. The entrance was overgrown with weeds. Even the wooden door was rotting, and the surrounding wall looked like it might collapse at any moment. Your sister lives here? Su Zimo asked. Yes, this used to be where the Wrathful Lord lived. She won't live anywhere else and won't let us move a single brick, Green Yun said. Taking advantage of the darkness, they climbed over the courtyard wall and entered the inner house. The weeds in the yard were even taller, nearly waist-high, growing all the way to the door of the inner house. Green Yun stepped forward and knocked gently on the door, but it was silent inside, no response at all. Sister, open the door, Green Yun said softly. Still no reply. Sister, I came to tell you something about the Wrathful Lord, Green Yun said a bit louder, nodding at Su Zimo. As soon as she finished speaking, with a loud bang, the door was yanked open. What happened to Wrathful? A woman ran out anxiously. Su Zimo looked up and saw a woman in a light blue gauze robe. She wore no makeup, and her face looked extremely weary. Her complexion was pale and sickly, but her beauty still faintly showed. She had delicate brows and eyes like clear water, carrying a fragile gentleness like women from the south. Careful, sister. Green Yun quickly supported her, worried. What happened to Wrathful? The woman asked, eyes full of hope. Ask him. He was sent by Brother Wrathful to bring you a message, Green Yun said, pointing to Su Zimo. The woman in the blue gauze turned to Su Zimo. Please, Can you tell me how Wrathful is? I was sent by Lord Wrathful himself to deliver this message, so you can rest assured, Madame Green Qing, Su Zimo said with a wave of his hand. During that battle, the Lord was gravely wounded, worse than ever before. That's why he didn't have time to inform you. He's been recovering for nearly 1,000 years, and only recently started to get better. He immediately returned to Wrathful City and sent me to give you this message.